Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
Someone once told me that Prussia stood for Posh Russia, and now every time I see it or hear Prussia, I think of it's Posh Russia. This week we get to play a lot in Posh Russia as we lie and cheat our way around Europe on our way to our fortune, and then there's like 2 hours left of something else. This is Adjust Your Tracking, a podcast where we're on an adventure to watch a century of cinema, decade by decade, year by year. I am one of your hosts, Liam Delaney.
And I'm Oliver Jones. I feel like I need to apologise for last week, especially to Brandon, because he bought his A game, and I was like, if you look at my WAV form from last week, you can tell it was a sad WAV form. It was, or wave form, whatever. It was like, it was so low, I had to bring it up, so it looked like yeah, I felt really bad, but I wasn't having a good week last week. I'm feeling a lot better now, a lot chipper.
That's fine. We all have bad weeks, and I don't think I know.
I was glad Brandon was here to save the day.
Yeah, it was really fun having Brandon on. It's
Yeah.
2-timer club. What's the
2-time?
What's the 5-timer? That's going to be the kind of when you've made it. You get a little award when you do 5 times, I reckon.
Or you do it like a wedding, so it's like paper trackies. Then I don't know what's the 2-year anniversary? Is it leather? I don't know.
Wood. Wood's one of them, isn't it?
Wood. It could be wood.
Wood, paper, jewels, emerald, ruby.
If plasticine is one, I'm swimming in plasticine. I've got at the moment,
Plasticine's your every single anniversary.
I've got 72 packets of plasticine sitting right next to me.
72.
Yeah, for this.
Have you got a new stop motion video coming up? Is that what that indicates?
I do have, yeah.
Is that for a music video?
It is, yeah. It's the one I was talking about a few weeks ago, which I kind of accidentally robbed off someone else.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And they gave me very little time to do a music video, so I've been building sets and little characters and stuff like that, and battering my hands in the process, burning it on glue guns, stabbing it with craft knives. So it's all good.
It's all good.
What have you been up to?
What have I been doing? PhD writing, and not a lot of it. I've been having a massive fucking brain freeze. So I've been
brain fart.
Yeah, just been sitting at my desk, just staring at a screen, going, "Why can't I get any words out?" But I think I just cracked something the other day, so I'm kind of happy. And
oh, nice.
I need to give myself some time to sit down and write. That's what I really need. I need something that isn't like other things. I just need to kind of just give myself some time and write away to finish off this chapter. So hopefully it should be okay.
I get all my ideas in the shower, so my advice to you is just have lots of showers.
Just never get out of the shower. That would work.
You just never get out of the shower and you'll have all the ideas.
I had a bath the other day and I was in there for so long. I rarely have baths, but apparently when I have a bath, I can stay in there for like an hour and a half.
I'm not good with baths. I always do it too hot, or I get into it when it's too hot.
Absolutely scolded myself. I jumped right in and I was like, oh! Like my whole leg had just gone red, like was I bleeding.
I just get tired, like it gets really hot and I get tired and I think, oh, I'm going to die in the bathtub now, because that's one of my fears, is dying in a bathtub, so I just don't have a bath.
Well, okay. That's
happened to Whitney Houston and her daughter. It could happen to anyone.
Did it happen to her daughter?
Yeah, they both died in the bathtub, I believe. I could be wrong.
Way.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
Did Dolores from not the Cardigans, the Cranberries, die in the bathtub?
She did, yeah, she did.
So, bathtubs, they are
very sad.
Dangerous to female singers, apparently.
Yes.
That sounds morbid. I apologise. It's been an odd weekend.
What else you been up to? Anything else fun?
I don't know. If I'm very honest, I got incredibly drunk on Friday, and then went on voice chat with my friends and made an arse out of myself, and then
You made an arse out of yourself.
And then spent the weekend being hungover. That was my weekend.
How did you make an arse out of yourself?
I was just really drunk and just really unfiltered.
Oh, just Larry.
And they were incredibly not drunk, like incredibly sober. So they have all the memories and I have none of the memories.
Oh, I hope they recorded it.
I hope they didn't. But I have been watching tons of movies this week. So I tried to catch some new releases as well.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the newest release that I really wanted to watch, but I'll watch that next week, which is Kelly Reinhardt's new movie, First Cow.
I have heard of that.
So I'll try and watch that for next week. I'm going to try and watch a couple of Kelly Reinhardt's, actually, because I've been meaning to watch her films for ages and never really got around to it. There are a couple of her films on our long list for the century, but I've been meaning to kind of get on board, really, and watch them. But First Cow's meant to be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to watching it. A number of people have said, it's like the kind of film of the year so far, which is a small list, but it's still film of the year. But I watched 7500 or whatever it's called, that plane movie with JGL in it.
Oh, where he's like German or something.
He's not German. He's American in it, but he has like a German accent. I don't get it. He specifically says that he's American and he's moved to Germany to be with his wife. But he's there going, "You sound German," which I guess could be like kind of him overthinking the role, like he's an Americanized person who's taken on a bit of an accent because he's moved to Germany, which I think is probably what he's doing. He's overthinking it.
Right. I've heard it's good though.
It's all right. It doesn't really fill the time. I kind of like a kind of high concept action film, so that like it's going to be set just in the cockpit of the Airbus or whatever. And I like that kind of stuff, but this doesn't manage to fill an hour 40, and like the last half an hour of the film, they're not in the air anymore. There's only one terrorist left. It's him and JGL in the cockpit, and I was just so ready for it to end. I was like, it's not managed to fill the whole time at all, but it was enjoyable enough. And I watched a number of films by Mr. Kubrick, but we'll get to that later. I watched Relic, new film.
The Mina Savaro film. Oh, not the 90s one.
No. It's by Natalie Erica James, who I believe she's Australian or New Zealand. I'm not sure. It's just come out. It's a new film. It's just come out on streaming this week. It's like one of those kind of like, like Hereditary and stuff like that, and the A2A, I think they're called. Studio are doing that kind of high concept horror films. It's kind of like one of those, and it's perfectly good. I really enjoyed it. Like it's kind of like the old lady of the family goes missing, and her mom and her daughter move into their house to find her. And when they find her, when they eventually find her, she's kind of got this kind of mold growth, blood bruise kind of growing on her. And the house kind of has the same thing going on, and it's all about like the kind of legacy of their family and stuff like that.
Sounds good.
But I really enjoyed it, actually, and it's nice. It's a horror film, but it just keeps that tension up. It's not like a jump scare thing or anything like that. It just keeps that kind of tension up, and it's really worth checking out, actually.
I prefer horror films like that though. Like
me too.
Like jumpy horror films don't really do it for me.
No. Cattle prod horror.
I prefer stuff like Hereditary and
I loved Hereditary
and Midsommar. Those kind of films. It's more about the tone and stuff like that than as opposed to just kind of.
What this is. The same thing. It's all about tone. The only problem with tone kind of based horror films is if the payoff might not satisfy you because it might not be trying to pay you off. And I don't think this film tries to kind of pay you off in that way. Like, it doesn't try and end the film with a big scare. It ends the film with like its story. And I think
it shouldn't. If that's the kind of film it is, it shouldn't end with a scare. It's like again going back to Midsommar. It just kind of
totally. It just wraps it up. I love Midsommar. And this is a similar sort of thing. And I think she's a new director. I don't believe she might have had another film come out. Drumwave, I think it was called. But this is really her first big feature, so she's worth keeping an eye on. Natalie Erica James. And I really enjoyed the film.
I guarantee she'll now be on the shortlist of many superhero films.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll direct fucking Mr. Wonder or something, or whatever fucking whichever Marvel character hasn't got a film. Is that even a character? Did I make him up? Isn't that?
I don't know.
Wonder Man.
They seem to pluck out the like low budget horror directors, don't they?
Yeah. And Sam Raimi for some reason. Coming in hard.
Doctor Strange, isn't he?
Because didn't they took out their low budget horror director from it, didn't they?
Yeah, but to be fair, Sam Raimi did come from low budget horror.
Yeah, he did. He very much did. Yeah, way back when.
But It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know if this would ever happen, but it's called the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Do you reckon he'd bring back his Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
Why not?
I think it's time.
I think it's time.
It's time Tobey Maguire actually does something. He hasn't done anything, I don't think, since maybe Great Gatsby.
God,
I
good.
could be wrong.
Good.
But
That might be
it's
right.
been a while.
Yeah. I can't remember anything he's been in recently. Do you think Bruce Campbell's going to be in it, right?
Surely he must be in it.
I'd be really annoyed if he's
and
not.
the car.
And the car. The
car's gotta be
Oldsmobile.
in it
The
somehow.
classic, is that what they called it?
Yeah.
That-
Which I don't think actually exists any. You know, like that
Yeah,
joke
sure.
in
They like-
Only Fools and Horses
Yeah.
triggers broom.
Yeah.
I think that Oldsmobile is pretty much that. There's nothing original on that car anymore. There can't be.
Plays a big role in the TV show. Though I don't think it's the same
Oh.
car, but
I really like that show.
I love
I
that
thought
show.
it was really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good, and I don't understand why everyone slept on it. Really, I guess it's probably the network a little bit. No one watches network television, so if it's not on,
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't try and shop it to like Netflix, or maybe they did.
well, it is on Netflix. It's just on that slow release. I don't think they've got the final season yet, but season 1 and 2, I think,
okay.
are on Netflix. But over here, anyway. I don't know about America.
I know he said he's never going to play Ash ever again.
Which is
I'm
fair.
sure he said that before.
But yeah.
Well, he's like an old guy.
I think he's played him enough. He's done enough telling of that story. I think he said that because they're doing another Evil Dead, aren't they?
Yeah, but based on the remake one, I think. Is it a remake? I don't know, or it's set like, you know, with the other casts.
I thought it was a new one, not even to do with the remake.
Oh, really? I don't know. Apparently, it's potentially not even set in the cabin. It's set like in an apartment block or something like that.
They don't
So that's-
need to do
yeah.
another remake in a cabin. They've got it. They don't need to do anything at all, but whatever. Deadites are a fun enough thing to do stories about. But I also watched Rocco's Modern Life film on Netflix.
Ah, any good?
Yeah, I really loved it. It's not long. It's only 45 minutes, I think. So it's basically
okay.
2 episodes, frankly. Static Cling, I think it's called. Yeah. It's really just a kind of about kind of reboot culture and kind of modern reboot culture of 90s stuff. That's really what it's about. And it's a pretty good satire on it, and it made me laugh a lot. And I loved Rocco's Modern Life back in the day, and so I was really kind of looking forward to watching it. But then I just completely slept on it. I forgot it even came out, and then it just appeared on my.
Yeah, I forgot it even existed, to be honest. But
It's.
I mean,
worth
now's
it.
the time that all 90s cartoons and stuff are going to start
Yeah,
popping back up somehow. Or I mean, Beavis and Butthead's coming back, isn't it?
it is again. Yeah. Which whatever.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Mike Judge has got quite a good track record, and when it came back, about 10 years ago, it was actually pretty good.
It was all right. Yeah,
And-
it was all right.
Oh, there's an episode on it called Crying, which is amazing. It's so good.
And I remember the one when they're flying drones.
Yeah, that's the one everyone seems to kind of...
For some reason, that stuck in my memory. I watched
It's
all
not
of
the
that
best
in a
one,
really shitty hotel room in Doha. Like, it was an
Okay.
awful hotel that I can't even remember the name of. It was not one of the normal ones we stayed at. We just got some they booked us some just crummy like 10 real a night hotel room that the floors were barely like doors didn't even stick. And for some reason, it was me and this guy called Pete were in there, and we just hooked up like our laptops to the TV in this room and watched all of the new Beavis and Butthead. That's the only time I ever watched it. I can't remember. That's a really weird memory, but that's when I watched all of the new Beavis and Butthead.
There's another good one where they watch Twilight in the cinema, and they think that girls are attracted to vampires and werewolves.
Oh yeah.
And they see this homeless guy who looks like a werewolf, like
Yeah.
obviously he's quite rabid or whatever. So they try and get bitten by him, and then they just get every disease known to man.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. Oh, apparently these
That's a good one.
sunk in a bit more than I thought. Did you know Tom? You know Tom Kenny?
Oh, SpongeBob.
Yeah. Did you know he did a voice in Rocco's Modern Life? Because I didn't until this film.
Yeah, is he Heifer?
I
No.
think he's Heifer. Yeah, I was just looking up to see who he is, but
I mean, Tom Kenny's like, who's the guy who plays Fry? Billy
West.
Mitchell. No, Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell.
Billy West. That's it. Yeah, they all kind of run the same circles, don't they? And they all
Yeah.
you know, Mark Hamill as well has been like tons of stuff. Not just the Joker, he's done loads of other stuff. And because Mark Hamill did a film years ago called Comic Book the Movie.
Yes, I remember
where
that.
I think the idea was he's a a filmmaker who's trying to get the cast. No, basically his favorite comic book is being made into a film.
Okay.
And I think he's trying to stop it being made or something like that. It's a really flimsy premise.
Default premise.
And Bruce Campbell's in it because Mark Hamill believes that he should play the lead character and stuff like that. Or Bruce Campbell is cast as the lead character. And I don't know, basically the whole cast is all voice actors, so Tom Kenny is like his best friend in it.
It's got a huge picture is that?
I'm sure Kevin Smith.
Is that Kevin Smith
Stanley
on the front
Kubrick.
cover? Yeah.
I think so. And then who's the guy who plays Bender?
Oh,
Joe DiMaggio.
yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in it as well, I think. So all these like voice artists. I think the idea was that he was going to put all of his famous voice artist friends as live action leads in his like feature film.
I see.
It's not a very good film though.
I have seen that film. I have definitely seen.
I'm
that
sure
film.
we saw it together.
Yeah, I do not remember a thing about it. Like that left my head as soon as I put it on. Apparently, Mike Mignola's in it. Which is
Really?
weird.
Yeah, because I think he shot a lot of it during Comic Cons. So,
Yeah.
and this was probably back in like the early 2000s when Comic Con was probably still mostly about comics.
Yeah, it was
Before, like,
mainly Mike Mignola
film.
and Matt Groening.
Yeah.
Peter David. Oh my God, Peter David.
So what have I done this? What have I watched this week? Well, I haven't really watched much. Going back to like talking about cartoons, I actually spoke to one of the directors of The Simpsons this week,
Oh yeah, sure.
which
I
was
remember you
pretty
saying.
cool. Yeah, Wes Archer.
Wes Archer, yeah.
He was a cool guy, man. He directed like 30 episodes of The Simpsons.
Wow.
He did like, do you remember Bart the Daredevil, the one where Homer jumps the gorge and like
Yeah.
falls down?
Yeah.
He did
Classic movie.
One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish.
Oh, good, great episode. Yeah.
It's the one where Homer thinks he's dying.
Yeah. So he
did-
directed them when The Simpsons still had heart.
Oh yeah, like when it was actually about something.
Yeah.
And about the family as
About the
opposed to,
family,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. He did Mr. Burns. Who Shot Mr. Burns 2?
Oh, cool. I love those.
He
I do
also-
like Mr. Who Shot Mr. Burns 1 and 2.
He left after Series 7. So
Fair.
What else did he do? He did Bart versus Australia.
Oh, amazing episode. Yeah.
He actually did one that was written by Conan O'Brien, but I've forgotten which episode.
I think Conan only has one official writing credit on The Simpsons, which was
really?
Monorail.
No, it wasn't Monorail.
Because
I know that.
I know, like, because it's a writer's room, they all contributed a lot to each other. But I'm not sure how many he had official writing credits on. I can check it because I'm a big Simpsons nerd.
He also did Springfield with the American dollar sign. It's the one where Mr. Burns like creates the casino.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
And he also did the one where Mr. Burns wants his his teddy bear, Boo Boo the bear.
The Boo Boo one, yeah.
It's Rosebud or something like that.
Conan wrote Homer Goes to College, Marge versus the Monorail, and New Kid on the Block. Which New Kid on the Block is the one where he falls in love with
It's New Kid on the Block. Yeah. It's that one.
Bart falls in love with the neighbour's daughter. Yeah.
So yeah, I've watched a lot of Simpsons over the last few days, preparing for that. And then he also did I think he was like the supervising director on King of the Hill. So supervising director means he doesn't actually direct an episode, but he's in charge of all the directors.
Okay, yeah.
Making sure they're all on track.
Yeah, and kind of
his
not deviating from the kind of script too much, because you have to keep some sort of continuity between them, or some sort of same feeling or whatever.
Yeah, he also did a bit on Bob's Burgers, which I've never really watched that show.
I've not watched a lot of it. Well, people who like it tell me it's really good. I've watched like about 6 episodes, if I'm honest.
He's done some Futurama. I think he's done Disenchantment as well, but his big one now is that he's the supervising director on Rick and Morty. But he directed that episode you know, the Insane one where it's like a split screen. It's like 4 screens, multiple screens. Where, like, I don't know how anyone would do that episode. It'd be a right headache. But he's the guy who directed that episode, so that was pretty cool talking to him.
That's awesome.
What else have I done? I completed Last of Us 2, which I'm sure you'd love to hear all about.
Congratulations.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. I did it at 7 o'clock this morning.
God, I was asleep at 7 o'clock. No, I wasn't. Actually, I wasn't. I was getting out of bed for work, like a good person.
And then what have I've watched Hamilton twice this week.
I watched it on Friday.
Oh man, like Brandon, I know Brandon last week said he enjoyed it, but he was like, he said it's overhyped and that. I have to disagree. I don't think it's overhyped at all. I think it's wonderful.
I think it's perfectly natural for it to be overhyped. It's very good. And
yeah, I think it's
introducing people to something a lot of people don't see as well, so people are getting quite excited by it. A lot of people who go to me like I don't like musicals have ended up going, Hamilton's really good. So like,
yeah.
I think it's one. It's one of those.
It's a full-on proper musical at heart, though.
Yeah, it is absolutely.
So I don't see how you can say I don't like musicals and then you like that.
That's good. I don't know.
But hopefully, if it opens their mind to it, then that's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it gets them into watching more. I mean, there are bad musicals out there, and I can be quite snobbish about musicals, but I would never say I don't like musicals. And Hamilton's amazing. So,
but like the one thing I picked up on the second one is that, you know, there's a girl who I think she plays the bullet.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
And I noticed on the second viewing, whenever she dances, she's always right next to Hamilton.
Okay, yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And then I noticed that his son flirts with her.
Yes.
So it's like he's flirting with death.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. She shakes the hand of it's not Lafayette. One of the revolutionaries it's not Hercules Mulligan or Lafayette, the other revolutionary that dies in the Battle of Yorktown.
So she's kind of like,
she helps
whoever dies.
She helps him take down a British soldier at the back of the Yorktown. They shake hands, and the next time you see him, he's dead. So it's like every time she interacts with someone directly on stage, they die. And at one point, there's a bit where like a bullet gets shot over Hamilton's head. He ducks out of the way, and she's playing the bullet then, and then she plays the bullet at the end. Yeah, it's really smart. Really, really kind of.
And then
it's packed full of little stuff like that.
Like, you know, the middle bit like constantly rotates, and it's almost like you could say it's almost, well, obviously the whole thing's about a revolution, and that thing is rotating.
Yeah.
And then, but also like a turntable, like a hip hop kind of record
that's
as
true,
well. Yeah. And also, I guess because the play starts at the end, kind of.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of got like a cyclical nature. I know like other stage shows have done circular things before to kind of keep like momentum and movement on the stage.
Sure.
And stuff. I think there was a Lord of the Rings one which had a stage that circled round, so it had different sets on the different as it span round and stuff.
One of my favourite things about Hamilton is actually the set, is the fact that it's all just fluid. It's all the dancers and stuff like that, and they all have like a massive part to do with it. It's not like, it doesn't rely on its set at all. Really, the set is just some stairs. That's it, really. Right. But one of my favourite things is just how it's also so fluid with it.
But I was looking at other like little hidden things as well. And then, so like apparently Hamilton always walks in arcs. So he's always kind of open to anything around him and stuff like that. And then is it Burr, you know, the other guy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he always walks in straight lines.
That's kind of cool.
Kind of narrow-minded and stuff like that. I thought that was quite interesting. But he's fantastic. He was.
Well,
and then
Leslie Oldham Jr. is he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
I mean, to be fair, everyone's fantastic in it.
Yeah, but
and I think
if I'm very fair, the worst actor is actually Lin-Manuel.
Oh, this is what I was just gonna say, and I think but I don't know if, because he's obviously the weakest singer.
Yeah, definitely.
By far, but I don't know if that's to kind of suggest his character of Hamilton. Like, obviously, he's great at writing. But the reason why he never ascended higher is because he kind of was lacking something.
Yeah, I can go for that. I don't think it's purposeful, but I think it fits the play. I don't think it hurts it that Lin-Manuel isn't the best singer out of all of them. I guess. Yeah. Like, it's funny that funny that he got given like the Mary Poppins role and stuff like that, where he's a much better songwriter than he is like performer. It's like,
Right.
and I'd wish more people would latch onto that. Like Moana, I love that soundtrack. I think he really can write songs like fantastically. So use him for that.
Which one's? So Lafayette is the one who he plays dual roles as well.
Yeah, all of them
that
play dual roles.
Well, yeah.
Well,
not all of them.
apart from
most.
Burr and Hamilton and Washington. I think
His
they're
wife.
the three that don't play. Oh yeah, the women don't tend to play.
Yeah.
dual roles.
But he was fantastic. But like, because I'm so dense, like obviously he's a different character when his hair's down and when his hair's out. Like I have to and then when the other guy plays his son and he's like 9 years old, I'm like, if that's a 27-year-old man.
Yeah, it works.
But yeah, I know you have to kind of go with it. And
I like
on the
that
second time,
Hercules Mulligan, he wears a beanie when he's Hercules Mulligan, and then when he's James Madison, he has his hair like slicked back.
But no, I thought it was fantastic, and
I think
Yeah,
I love
brilliant.
it. Yeah.
my only worry is whenever I finally get to see it live, whenever theatres are open and I'm able to get a ticket, because I'm sure I won't be able to get a ticket for it now until, I don't know, 2030 or whatever. But
2022 easily, probably.
I don't know if I'm gonna get attached to this version of the way these performers are doing it and stuff. So I'd be interested.
Good question. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack 100 times before seeing it live, and I didn't see the original cast before me. I saw the Broadway cast. Sorry, the West End cast. So
West End cast, yeah.
it was the same, you know, like it was the same. They were really good. I didn't.
But
it wasn't a distraction for me.
the guy who plays King George is amazing as well.
Yeah, oh God, I was trying to remember his name the other day because I was watching it with Kate, my housemate, and I couldn't remember his name. He's quite a veteran, actually.
Oh yeah, he's done loads of stage.
Rory,
loads
someone.
Of film. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I
his damn
guess
name, but he's
it
great.
kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today, because it's set during the same.
It absolutely is set during the same time.
period.
It is absolutely,
And,
yeah. Same king.
Yeah, so
George
you know,
III,
like at the end they're talking about the war with France and England and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, and you know it's just and it's like, I don't want to get into it too much, but the reason why I never watched Barry Lyndon before, bear in mind I love Stanley Kubrick, but I always thought, it's going to be a bit boring.
Oh, I kind of
But
thought
then-
the same thing.
But then I think this time period is amazing, because
It
you've
is,
got
yeah.
America as this young country at that time, and then
Yeah.
you've got all this stuff going on in Europe and stuff, and it's quite fantastic, really, what happened. And
Yeah, it's an incredible.
also you've got
time
one
period,
of the
and
best series of Blackadder as well, based on it.
We had a fucking lunatic in charge, so that was
Yes.
good. I don't know, like I'm always turned off by period films. And when I say period films, I literally mean like 18th century films. like I don't know why period has to mean 18th century, but it kind of does in my head.
But it's quite fascinating when you think about
No,
it.
but I love the time period, and I love the stories from then, and I some of my favorite historical figures are from them. It's just, I think sometimes the filmmaking can be really boring,
Yeah.
and I think can be too hard to relate to sometimes. In they're kind of too obsessed with maybe sometimes too obsessed with language, or too obsessed with something that kind of disconnects me.
Right.
But like, I mean, what are the big ones? I love Pride and Prejudice. I love like Sense and Sensibility is good. I don't know. I really like the new Little Women. That's a bit later than this, but 100 years later than this. But I don't know. I definitely saw Barry Lyndon and just thought that is a 3.5-hour film set in like the kind of Regency era.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that it's really not boring. It really isn't.
Yeah, but we'll get into
Yeah.
it in a bit. We'll bury the lead for a little bit.
Bury the lead.
Bury the lead.
But like, yeah, because I talk about Kubrick a little bit because I watched some of his films this week. But like, Kubrick's just like a master of what he does, and it's hard to do an episode on Kubrick because like, I think you could do.
Well, you'd have to do a whole
100
series on him,
episodes of
really.
Kubrick, like,
Yeah.
but
I mean, you could probably do a whole podcast series on all of his films that never came to be.
God, yeah,
Like Barry Lyndon came from him wanting to do a film about like Waterloo.
It was Napoleon, yeah. It was
Napoleon, yeah, and then Waterloo came out and it failed.
Yeah,
so
Waterloo flopped,
shifted
yeah,
gears.
and the studio lost confidence in him doing his Napoleon film. So it's the big lost script, isn't it, for Kubrick? Is Napoleon? I mean, the other one is AI, which I think is fantastic as well. It's another film that I think people misjudge.
I need to rewatch that film. It's been a while. I know a lot of people shat on the ending, but I still think the ending's still quite.
The ending's
I still
so
think
good.
it's still quite dark.
It's so dark. I don't understand people who think that isn't a dark ending.
For Spielberg, it's definitely
Yeah.
You know,
he's like basically the end of that film is that kid gets trapped underwater, conscious for like thousands or hundreds of years or something. Enough that he realizes that every single person he knows in his world dies. He's designed as a creature to only care for his mom, like to basically not really exist without his connection to that. And these aliens drag him up and create like a perfect world for him where he knows nothing's real, like and that it doesn't matter anymore to him because he's lived alone for so long, like, and he's not got any love at the end of it. It's really dark, and Spielberg does it with a Spielberg touch that makes everyone think it's lovely. I think that's the...
I want to know if it visually still holds up though, like if it's still...
I watched it not too long ago and I think it does, but I'll be interested to hear what you think. But
yeah, I'd like to rewatch that. So what did you watch Kubrick wise then?
So I watched The Shining because I love The Shining and I will take any opportunity to rewatch The Shining. And it still holds up every single time I watch it. I think it's just one of the best films ever made. Then I went back. I was going to watch Clockwork Orange because I figured I'd watch his other 70s one, but I've seen that a few times. So I went back and watched Dr. Strangelove.
Oh yeah,
which is wonderful. Like Peter Sellers is just killing it in that film.
Oh yeah, he's how many roles has he got in that?
3.
He's got, like,
he plays like the president. He plays Dr. Strangelove himself. And he plays the captain. Is it Captain Mandrake, as well?
Wasn't he originally meant to play more characters originally? Or
I wouldn't be surprised if he was meant to play every character in the film, apart from maybe George C. Scott's character or something. Like. But it's so good, and the sets are so amazing. That war room set is so absolutely just stunning.
Well,
like
loads of films have literally like taken it. I think the Watchmen film pretty much copied it.
Well, talking of The Simpsons, if you've never watched Dr. Strangelove, you will get 4,000 references in The Simpsons now. They reference that film more than any other film they reference. But it's hilarious and just a wonderful film. And I also watched Lolita, which I'd actually never seen before.
See, I've not seen that one.
So I figured I'd watch Lolita. And I didn't really realise that it's kind of a comedy. Like,
okay.
In a kind of black comedy way, like very black comedy, it kind of is a comedy. At least Peter Sellers makes it a comedy. And apparently he was improving on set all the time. I always never really wanted to watch Lolita because it's about an adult man who falls in love with like a 12-year-old, basically.
Yeah.
But I was always worried that James Mason's character, the Hum, would be kind of like sympathetic, and he's not. Like it's very clear that he's doing something really wrong. The rest of the world thinks it's wrong, and the film thinks it's wrong. So that is better. Like I was like, because at least that way you're watching it, not thinking that kind of a group of old men are thinking this is cool or something like.
So that's his only film that's been remade, isn't it? So
good point. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised anyone's got the gall to actually remake a Kubrick film.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess it was a book first. But
I can make that better.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to do that.
Well, that's not. Remember, they remade Shining as a TV series, which absolutely sucked as well.
Yeah, but wasn't that actually written, or was it directed by Stephen King? It was definitely
Stephen King famously thinks that the film is rubbish. Stephen King's an idiot now and again.
Yeah.
Because that film is fun. It's not rubbish. But I watched Lolita and I actually kind of enjoyed it. Actually, it's a well-made film. It's 2.5 hours long, but it's good. And
I think Barry Lyndon is his longest film, isn't it?
Spartacus, maybe. How long's Barry Lyndon?
Spartacus.
Because Spartacus is 3 hours 16. So how long's Barry Lyndon?
It's crazy that like one of his early films was one of these big, huge like
epics. Yeah.
Yeah, like like a pop. Well, I don't know if it's a popcorn. I guess.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
like
Yeah,
one of those,
definitely for the 1960s.
Sword and Sandals.
Yeah.
Movies that are.
It's
big
his
at the time.
Spartacus is the only film, and I haven't seen Spartacus since I was a kid. But Spartacus is his only film that he'd done, which wasn't really his film. It was the studio's film, really. And he didn't really have full control over it.
A lot of those films were like producer led, though, weren't they? Really?
Yeah. And I think Kirk Douglas had a lot of control over it as well, as the star.
It's like Cleopatra, didn't that have like several directors and stuff
Yeah.
like that? Like those films were like the films were bigger than any one person on that.
Is that the same as The Greatest Story Ever Told? Did they get rid of the directors on that as well, maybe?
Possibly.
That weird Bible film that I've never actually seen, but
it's quite funny. Like in the 60s he worked quite a bit, didn't he? He released 4 or 5 films. Then 70s he only did 2 films, and then the 80s he did 2, and then it took a good 12-year gap.
Yeah. Well, it's actually worth getting into because The Killing's his first film in 1956. Which is quite a shortish kind of like film. Then he kind of hooks up with Kirk Douglas and makes Path of Glory and Spartacus. Both of those, Path of Glory is a war film, normal length. It's like 88 minutes long or something. And Spartacus is an absolute sword and shield, it's written based on a book, everything like that. Huge epic. Kirk Douglas is kind of commanding it along with the producers. But that's the point he falls out with Kirk Douglas, and he falls out with the American studio system. So he quits America at that point. He also says America had too much crime, which is another reason apparently he quit America. So that's when he moves to England. So a lot of ways, that's why if you do think of him as an English director, you can be forgiven it, because every film he makes since Spartacus is an English film, really. It's made with English studios. So then he made Lolita and Doctor Strangelove because he hooked up with Peter Sellers, and so makes those. Then he makes 2001 in 1968, that's kind of when he gets this kind of identity of just reinventing the wheel more than anything else. 2001 was so ahead of just anything else that was going on. Again, a book. I think everything he really made were books.
Was that Douglas Trumbull doing the effects on that?
Yes, that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that film kind of just blows him up, really. Because I think Lolita was a bit of a flop. Doctor Strangelove was huge, one of the best films ever made. 2001 was massive. Then he makes Clockwork Orange, another book, 1971. Clockwork Orange, he ends up pulling it from cinemas in the UK because of the controversy. And he doesn't really get, even though now we'd love it, and the society generally thinks it's great, at the time, most people were like, what is this? So then he gets Barry Lyndon, and this is when he breaks. Barry Lyndon's kind of the film that broke Kubrick a little bit, because he
broke the Kubrick's back.
Yeah, because we'll get into it properly, but he just gets obsessed with this is when he gets this kind of 35 takes because a shadow bounced wrong or something. I
think with every film he did, he tried. One of the instigating factors on every film he did was that every film had to be based on a new technique or technique. So obviously 2001 was about the effects basically.
In-camera effects.
Yeah. I mean, this one was all about filming
realism, historical realism.
With natural lighting.
Yeah.
And,
he wanted to look like people would look like at the time, so he based it all on these oil paintings from the 18th century. And some of the shots in that film, they look like. I mean, some I'll point out when we talk about. Yeah, totally. Yeah, but it's astonishing. If you haven't sat down and watched Barry Lyndon, it's absolutely astonishing how this film looks. No, it doesn't look like any other film. It doesn't. It looks so amazing, and the costumes are so amazing. And that kind of just to quickly bash through Kubrick. That's what breaks him a little bit, because this film also flops. It doesn't make enough money. So I think after that it takes him 5 years to do The Shining, which again is a film that, I mean, I adore it, but you cannot talk about him being a good person on set with Shelley Duvall and stuff like that.
Oh, I mean, Paul, have you seen her now recently?
Yeah.
She's like now. It's such a shame. I mean, I'm not saying Kubrick was to do with that.
No, we can't say that. But he was never a people director. ever.
Yeah.
He directed like the scene that stuff happened in, and so after like Shining, then he takes 7 years to do Full Metal Jacket. I probably Full Metal Jacket's a weird one. Some people absolutely love it, and some people absolutely hate it. They think it's terrible.
Of the Kubricks I've seen, which is most, it's one of my least favourites.
I think it's my least favourite, but it's again, it was another film.
It's not a bad film. It's not a bad film by any stretch of the
no, but it's another film that he basically dragged the actors through absolute hell to get performances out of them. Then he makes that, and then as you say, that's 1987. Then it isn't until 1999 that Eyes Wide Shut comes out, which is well over 10 years, like 12 years.
There's no way he's breaking down Tom Cruise. That's never going to happen.
And it's such an odd film. I love Eyes Wide Shut, but he recreates like parts of New York. Is that right? In London, he's he takes photos of like he's obsessed with just recreating like photo scenes and stuff like that.
They took 2 million photos.
Yeah,
I think they've got in his archive of that from that film. I think people have used his archival photos for their own projects and stuff like that. I know be surprised. I know for The Shining, you know, at the end, a big long shot as they're driving to the hotel or whatever.
The start of it,
big aerial shots.
Yeah.
It's they use that at the end of, I think, the theatrical cut of Blade Runner.
Okay.
Because he apparently he had like 20 hours worth of just aerial footage because he wanted it just right.
Yeah.
So he just went, okay, you can have all of this apart from this.
Yeah, I'm using this
segment here.
Yeah, I'm winning this 1 minute 20. Oh God, yeah.
And you can use whichever you want out of this because that's it's the theatrical one where he drives off with Sean Young.
Yeah.
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The happy ending one. Yeah. So.
And it's kind of Eyes Wide Shut, as you say. Like because he took him so long because he was just got to this meticulous like recreation of feeling and sets and worlds. Like people always said that he doesn't make films, he makes worlds. And that's what Eyes Wide Shut he was doing with that. Eyes Wide Shut's didn't get great reviews when it first came out, but in a large way it's because of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman at the time. They kind of overtook it.
Just looked like a bit of a stunt. I guess.
And they were obviously the big couple at the time, and they didn't really have great chemistry on screen. But that works for the film. But I think
because
it's
they'd already done the racing car one with Tony Scott, Days of Thunder.
Is that Days of Thunder? Yeah.
They did Far and Away, which Far and Away, the Irish immigrants.
Yeah,
and they're trying to find their plot of land in, directed by Ronnie H.
Ron H.
But yeah, I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut for a while. Last time I watched it was about 5 years ago. I made this like animated music video.
Oh yeah,
and it's not a particularly nice videos. I just did it because I really needed a job.
Yeah, sure.
But one of their references was Eyes Wide Shut, and I hadn't seen it at that time, so I watched it. It's got a lot of, in the video, if you watch it, it's got a lot of cloaked people in some weird kind of sexy...
sexy cult people.
Cloaks, cult people, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's Eyes Wide Shut. But he's, in terms of directors, he's up there as just... He's Stanley fucking Kubrick. I don't know what more. It's hard to talk about him. Like, he reinvents cinema continuously. Like Spartacus broke epics. Like Doctor Strangelove broke like Cold War comedies. Like 2001 broke like what sci-fi is going to be. Like Barry Lyndon broke kind of period films. Like The Shining broke kind of like horror adaptations, and then Eyes Wide Shut broke celebrity. I don't know, it broke I don't know what it did. Like, he's just one of these directors that every time he did something, it was an event. Nothing came out and just nothing happened. Like,
he must have died pretty soon after Eyes Wide Shut.
Did he? Yeah, I actually was thinking that. I was going to look that up because.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, he died. He died in '99. So he died in March. So.
Yeah, the film came out in '99, didn't it?
Yeah, I actually think he may have died before it came out then.
Oh, really? It was released post-human.
Post-human?
Human? Post-human. He was, technically. I can't find it. Eyes Wide Shut. Let's type that in, that'll be easier. Eyes Wide Shut. So that came out
July
September.
16th.
So yeah,
okay, yeah,
well, September in the UK. But yeah, so you're right.
yeah. So it came out after he died then.
No way.
So that means he was working on AI straight after Eyes Wide Shut, or is it?
Or before,
or was
like,
he working
or
on the
just
80s? Is it one thing he
concurrently?
abandoned before it?
Maybe. I think it was one of those films he was waiting for. What's the term? Waiting for the technology to catch up, or you know what I mean, like the old George Lucas saying, "I was waiting for the technology to catch up."
Couldn't
before I
wait to
could,
put a stormtrooper at this part of the. Okay, when I'm looking at it, apparently he approached Spielberg in '95 with the script.
Oh,
So-
you do it. I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered. You do it. And yeah, we talked about Napoleon, but that's following 2001. He really wanted to make a film about Napoleon. Just this idea of like self-destruction of this emperor more than anything else. And so he spent ages planning like everything about Napoleon, and planning, I think 2 years he did just to research into Napoleon or something like that. And got obsessed with like he got obsessed with the 1927 film, if I remember correctly. He got absolutely obsessed with it for some reason. He would like kind of recut it and rewatch it and stuff like that. And then he got the screenplay together and he got it all going to happen. And then the Waterloo film came out and it was very bad received and they just refused to fund it. So he kind of then turned his obsession with Napoleon into kind of Barry Lyndon, into like doing a film set in the same time period, set during the 7 Years' War, but like not about Napoleon himself, but about another kind of destruction of the rise and fall of someone in society, which is what Barry Lyndon's really about, I guess.
So, looking at his filmography, I'm just going through all of his films. Pretty much all but 2001 are all based on books.
2001's a book.
Didn't say here, is it?
Yeah.
Short story, The Sentinel. So yeah, it is.
I think every single one is a book. I think.
So yeah, every single. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is weird.
Interesting, but like obviously we know with The Shining and Clockwork Orange and that he totally like.
Oh yeah.
He kind of just takes that. He just takes the core of it.
Lolita's the same. I haven't
just-
read the book Lolita, but Lolita, he definitely was someone who understood the book and then made a film about it. It's not...
like he strips all the guff out of it and kind of makes like a very streamlined, a bit long film out of whatever.
Yeah, but still kind of commercial. I think that's what's kind of fascinating about him.
Yeah.
Like, even though he has a couple of flops on his record, I think all his films are quite commercial, and they're not. It's not like Terrence Malick. He doesn't start making art films at any point. He makes long films, but they don't start becoming something that's very hard to watch for an audience. And
I mean, we all know his most famous film is The Moon Landing. Though, don't we?
I wasn't going to go anywhere near that bullshit, but
Have you seen that documentary though?
yeah, I have. Room 237, is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's like the whole film is essentially, if it's not like a talking head, it's they because like there's that rule. I don't know if it works in the UK, but in America, if you're using like footage from another film but using it in like a educational kind of context, you can kind of use whatever footage you want.
Okay.
So like the Ghostbusters film that I helped work on, like because it's educational in the fact they're telling you how a film was made, they can use the footage. So basically you can either, there's a way of doing it that if you ask for permission and then deny it, you cannot use it at all.
Okay.
But if you just go under the Creative Commons law or whatever,
Yeah.
you can kind of use it.
Huh.
But the downside of that is you might have to use like a very downgraded version. You won't be given the source material to kind of edit from. So like,
Okay.
so that documentary, that Room 237, they were using the DVDs that were available at the time. So the quality of the footage isn't great. But what they did was, if I remember, if someone goes, I went to the cinema to go and watch The Shining for the first time, I sat down with my popcorn, and they'll use footage of Tom Cruise from Eyes Wide Shut, like sitting down in the cinema.
Oh, you're so right. They do. Yeah, they do.
And
yeah.
I was like, I hated it. That kind of.
I am all for the idea that he shot the moon landings because I think that's hilarious. But it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, there's no way you could do it. There's no way that Stanley Kubrick, out of all people, there wouldn't be a paper trace of him doing this.
Oh yeah,
Like, he couldn't do it
somewhere in his
anyway.
bunker of all of his.
Yeah. We have every script of everything he slightly wrote. We've got his
He would have
20
wanted to
hours
go
of
to the
film.
moon.
And he would have. He would, like,
to photograph 2 mile square radius of it, just so he could recreate it perfectly.
there's a good chance that maybe they did want to fake it, but they accidentally hired Stanley Kubrick who just made them go to the moon.
Nope,
So-
we're going to the moon.
Yeah, so. But one of the reasons, actually, that this conspiracy crappy crap exists is because of Barry Lyndon, isn't it? Because of the lenses that he uses in Barry Lyndon to shoot are all
Because
from
they were
NASA.
like NASA. Yeah, they're like NASA lenses or something like that. Because the whole idea is that you can film in such a dark area, but the f-stop is so low, I think, that it
I believe you.
the more light kind of hits can get into the
Yeah.
lens, basically.
So basically, you can shoot in candlelit rooms and see people.
Yeah. Which kind of goes back to Taken of Pelham 1, 2, 3,
Mm-hmm.
because they kind of used a similar technique, I think. I don't know
Oh,
whether or
yeah.
not they'll
We did talk about
to
that, yeah.
film in the dark subway and
Yeah.
in the subway.
It's also like, I think the lenses he got from NASA were high powerful zoom lenses as well. I don't know anything about lenses, so I might sound like an idiot. But basically, the shots in Barry Lyndon where they go from massive wide shots into just close-ups in a zoom, that's what you wanted.
They were like, I mean, if we watch that, like us watching it now, we're probably kind of used to it
Sure.
because we've seen it in other films.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, like, no one had seen this where the camera's actually also moving.
Yeah.
I don't think it moves in like space, so the perspective doesn't shift. So it's not like it's necessarily on dollies and stuff. It's usually quite static.
There is a tracking shot in this.
Is
It's
there a tracking
amazing. Like, it's when
Which was that one?
the Lord Belmont, whatever, the Lord comes back to challenge Barry to a duel, and he walks through that gentleman's club, and they follow him all the
Yeah.
way through the gentleman's club. It's
true.
absolutely great shot.
But I don't think that's probably not necessarily with this.
No,
that
true.
lens.
Yeah, true. I just
But so I mean, a lot of these shots, they were quite static, but they were moving and also zooming at the same time.
Yes.
Zooming in and out.
There's
But
one when
because of that, you've got to focus as well at the same time.
yeah.
And to do that is insane.
There's one where it's going through like kind of hanging leaves of a tree, as they're kind of meant to be walking along the banks of a river, and then it spots Barry kissing someone and it zooms into him.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
It's amazing, yeah. Because I forgot to say about The Shining. Just that I didn't really. I found this out the other day that the use of Steadicam in The Shining was revolutionary, and it hadn't been used in any other way before. In films or something.
Like, you know how I was saying before, like every film had that one gimmick.
Yeah, that was his.
Like,
yeah.
So that was the one for that one, and I'm not sure what full metal jacket would have been. He's probably used real artillery.
Probably, I don't know. Yeah, that actually sent them to boot camp for 2 years. I don't know.
Well, I think they did do that, didn't they? Which has become a thing now. Every time they do a war film, they have to go to boot camp.
I hate hearing this stuff sometimes. I hate it when
when doing Private Ryan, we had to do 2 weeks of boot camp.
I was listening to Dead Eyes, the podcast, and it's about Conor Ratcliffe's experience when he was shooting Band of Brothers. Well, actually, he didn't get to shoot Band of Brothers. That's the whole point of it. But they had someone in from Band of Brothers on the show to talk about it. And apparently on the set, someone was yelling orders at him or something, like a kind of general major shit. And this guy got really pissed off with it and got really angry. And then the director took him aside to explain how, well, you haven't been to boot camp, so you don't know how it is round here, kind of stuff. And then he was meant to be a bit of a villain in the piece, and everyone treated him like shit throughout the whole filming. Were really mean to him and wouldn't talk to him. And he didn't find out until 20 years later that they got told to do this to be actors. He just literally he had the worst experience of his life on this film, and no one ever told him it was like an acting method thing. Which is just, I hate that so much.
It's like, give an actor a credit that he could actually fucking perform.
Yes.
Like, without being told you're a shit, no one wants you here. Like, I'm sorry, but, surely people's mental health come before,
Yeah.
your performance in your film or
In your
TV show.
TV show that I never watched.
Mr. Kubrick, I know that he didn't do that right, but you know.
Oh, but he was not. He would do that to actors. Okay,
Yeah. That's
like,
what I mean.
he apparently didn't think acting was a real thing, basically. Because I think the kid who played Danny Torrance, it's always famously said that he didn't know he was in a horror film. Like they kept him really separated from all the horror elements from it, so he thought he was in this kind of fun little film with his like in this hotel or something. And people always kind of say that to kind of defend Kubrick, saying, "Oh, but he treated like Shelley Duvall like crap." But look, Danny Torrance or whatever the kid's name was, he was protected really well. But actually, that was like the second unit director and like the casting director. It was nothing to do with Kubrick, and they went out their way to make sure Kubrick never got near the kid because it would be bad.
Ruining him.
Kubrick, 1970. What year are we in? 1975. I can't believe we're in 1975 already. This is going really quick.
Halfway through our second.
Well, over halfway, I guess. Anyway, yeah, 1975. Really good year for film. There's a little film that comes out called Jaws. Well,
I mean, like, I don't know what else you can say about Jaws. It's the best popcorn film ever made, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And it's perfect because of its faults as well. That's what's really good about Jaws. And it's what filmmakers should learn. Is that, like, the reason it's a great film is because the fucking shark didn't work. And if the shark had worked, we wouldn't remember it. So
the audience don't know that.
Exactly.
Like, because
yeah.
You kind of got pissed off that the shark didn't work. Like, you were smart enough to kind of work around it.
Yeah.
Others would have probably just, it'll be fine. We'll just have a crappy floating shark.
Yeah. We'll just have a crappy shark. It doesn't matter. It's a shark film. Like this crappy novel that you buy at the airport.
Jaws has got like the cheapest effect in it, and all it is dirt.
And the camera
and you
moving.
knew the shark was there. That's all you had to do was have that, and everyone's like, "Fuck the shark! Where's the shark?
Fuck the shark!" And it worked, and it still works this day, and it still holds up. And stop thinking you can't do that with films because that's how films are made. And Steven Spielberg, he's really good at making films.
Yeah,
he just is. It just is. And it's silly to think anything other way, really.
Do you know what though? Like, there's a documentary. It's called. Funny enough, it's just called Spielberg, and it's like he goes through his career. There's another one on De Palma as well, which is really good.
Okay.
But the Spielberg one's quite cool because it shows some of his early films from when he was like a kid with a Super 8 camera or whatever it was, and like you can just see from day one that this guy, even as like an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old with this little camera, kind of had a gift with it.
Yeah.
He like when me and you made our zombie film, we had like some World War flashbacks. Do you remember me and Sean?
Yes.
We put dirt on logs, like on pieces of wood that were kind of like on a seesaw. So when you stepped on it on one side, it went the dirt kind of sprung up in the air, like as if a gunshot.
Oh yeah.
We got that from Steven Spielberg making his war films in his back garden when he was like 10 years old.
He was like 10. That's one of my favorite things about watching Spielberg films is that he makes everything look effortless. It's weird. It's like it feels like no effort at all just goes into making his films. He's just like, whatever, do that. It works. Bye. Like, it's just... And Jaws is a similar sort of thing. Jaws just seems to work so well. I mean, what more can we say? Jaws. Whatever films come out.
I spoke to someone recently who only saw Jaws for the first time, probably. He's our age, so like 35, 36.
I think you stopped saying my
and
age.
He said
we agreed to this.
And he said it was boring, and I'm like, this is a guy who says he loves film as well, and I kind of okay, fair enough. You can like what you like.
Oh yeah, sure. You can like what you
like.
I'm
judging the fuck out of you for not liking Jaws.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. No, sorry.
I'm more than happy to hear I'm more happy to hear a different opinion on stuff. But Jaws is, it's Jaws.
It's like, how can you?
It's fine. People have their own thing.
But fuck them. Anyway.
Fuck them. What's
Do you know what
happened?
else came out this year?
No, I don't.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh yeah, another book. I love Jack Nicholson so much. I love Jack Nicholson's like 70s stuff and building up to Shining.
Yes.
I'm broken.
Like, he had a great 70s, didn't he?
He did,
Like,
yeah. Well, The Passenger also came out this year, which is another really good Jack Nicholson film.
Do you think, when did Jack Nicholson become Jack Nicholson? Do you reckon that was the 80s, though, like when he became, like...
What do you mean? It's got to be
Like-
post Shining, when he just
Yeah,
became kind of
that's what I
like
mean,
the
like-
devil.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, when that kind of grin came in and that raised eyebrows and that kind of, like... Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, just that kind of... When his, like,
'Cause they-
celebrity became bigger than the character...
When's
whoever
Witches
he's
of
portraying.
Eastwick?
That's the 80s, isn't it?
That's 87. So they're playing up on it in 87. They're very aware of him in 87. That's what I
Yeah,
mean
and
for
like
that casting. Like that's not.
And the Joker, for
Yeah.
example.
So it's got to be that
There's
maybe.
your Batman reference for today, Brandon.
Oh yeah. See, we can talk about nerdy stuff. We do talk about. I don't know what I'm on about. So Chinatown, Passenger, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Shining, Terms of Endearment, Witches of Eastwick, Broadcast News, Batman, Few Good Men.
He's a good actor. What's next?
What's next? Jack Nicholson. Talking of nerdy things that would be in books about nerdy things, Monty Python and the Holy Grail came out this year,
Oh, yeah.
which is
But it is great, though.
It is great. It's very. I think it's
A
better than
shrubbery.
Brian because I think it's more vignette-y.
I
Really,
think it's funnier than Brian, but I think Brian's got the kind of... It's got that hook of... It's about the guy who's not Jesus, but could have been Jesus. That
Yeah.
kind of... That it's got that kind of... And it's the more controversial one, obviously. Well, I don't think it is that controversial, but...
I think. Yeah,
Apparently
I guess
it
it
was back in
was.
the
Yeah. I think Brian's more of a film when Holy Grail's more of a sketch,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah,
that
I mean,
makes
it's
it
not.
more fun.
It's
to
not
watch.
quite. And now for something completely different, or
No, which is complete sketch film. Yeah, yeah,
What was the other one? The last
Meaning
one
of
they did?
Life.
Meaning of Life.
yeah. I
Yeah.
do like it's my favourite Monty Python, and it's the only really Monty Python I know. I never watched the show. I only really know Monty Python from those films, and like the one that's a collection of their sketches. Is there one when they remake sketches? Is that one?
Yeah. So there's and now for something completely different, which I think is where they like. So I think they refilm like the
They refilm their best sketches, don't they, and stuff? Yeah.
yeah, the parrot sketch and stuff like that.
That's weird. That's a weird thing to do.
But me and you saw them live, didn't we? And
Did we?
we saw Monty Python live.
Did I see it with you?
Well, no, but I bought tickets off off Robin.
Oh,
And I went with my dad, and we sat in front of you. You do you not remember this?
I remember going to see it with Robin. I didn't remember you being.
I'm hurt now. I'm hurt.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it was. We were at the O2, and we were at the back, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I was laughing more at the sketches they played on the big screen as opposed to when it was them performing them on the
I think
stage.
comedy in such a huge arena is a very weird choice. I think
Yeah.
you feel like
And
you can't
when they're,
really see
like,
what's going on, but it was good. It was
a
good.
bunch of guys in their early 70s, late 60s,
Yeah, who
and they
I'm fed up of hearing from. Frankly, that's my point with Monty Python guys. I don't need John Cleese to have a Twitter account. He can go away. Terry Gilliam can stop having opinions. I don't know why he keeps popping up and
Yeah.
ruining his films for me. It's just
I
like,
think Michael Palin's the only.
yeah, Palin.
Michael Palin comes across as a decent guy.
Palin's still great. We still like Palin. We can still watch Fish Called Wonder. Actually, he's great in Death for Stalin. That was a recent film he was in.
Yeah, well, is that the last one he's done?
I think so. Really?
Because he kind of moved away, didn't he, from films for a while and just did his like travel brochure,
Yeah, he used to.
like documentaries.
Did he go north and south, and then he went east and west? Is that what he did?
He's done loads of them, hasn't he? He was the travel man for a while on British TV.
He became like
Um,
travel about the place man. Is there any other films you want to talk about in 75 apart from Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yes.
Because we have to talk about Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I've never seen Rocky Horror.
Haven't you? I'm very surprised by that.
No. I will watch. My sister enjoys it. My sister likes it. She's gone to see it several times, and you dress up to go and watch it.
Yeah.
And stuff. She's done that.
I've never been to watch it.
I like a film that you don't like from that year.
Oh, do you?
And it's Tommy.
No, I don't like Tommy.
As far as you told me, anyway.
No, that's fine.
I do. I like the Who though, so
Yeah,
the songs are rocking.
I don't like the Who. I think that's my thing. I just find it a bit boring.
And Elton John's got a good part in it as well.
Yeah, it's very weird, that film is.
Yes.
I just never got connected with it. There's a load of weird films come out this year though, like Shivers comes out this year, so Cronenberg's first film, which is is absolutely wonderful actually. I kind of love it actually. But Salò comes out this year. Have you ever watched that? Is it called Salò? Was it Salo? I think it's Italian. It's the 120 Days of Sodom, and it's just like some fascist people round up 9 teenage boys and girls and subject them to 120 days of like physical, mental, and sexual torture. It's an incredibly like famously horrible film, and that comes out in 75.
Okay, no, I have not.
I don't recommend checking out, but it exists. Right, enough of that. Let's move on because we're going to be here forever. So let's talk about Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon, a film by Stanley Kubrick, starring Ryan O'Neal and Marissa Berenson, has won the Best Picture and Best Director award presented by the National Board of Review. Richard Schickel, in a Time magazine 7-page cover story, called the film ravishing, overwhelming, an uncompromised artistic vision, and said, director Stanley Kubrick asserts a claim to greatness that time alone can, and probably will, confirm. CBS TV critic Pat Collins called it a masterpiece, monumental, a perfect film of epic size. Playboy magazine's Bruce Williamson, a film classic. Rex Reed of the New York Daily News wrote, as an 18th century rake's progress, Barry Lyndon catalogues the rise and fall of a likable scoundrel, liar, cheat, and social climber, transporting the viewer into a world of long ago and creating the kind of magic few movies accomplish and few directors attempt in a lifetime. It is a magnificent entertainment, sumptuous, lush, gorgeous, and haunting, a classic of inestimable value. Liz Smith of Cosmopolitan called it a perfect movie. Beautiful, breathtaking, brilliant. Like a gorgeous, fulfilling dream of life, a dream you never want to end. It is not comparable to any other film I can recall. I ask you to turn yourself over to the experience. Barry Lyndon, a film by Stanley Kubrick based on the novel by William Makepeace Thackeray, starring Ryan O'Neal and Marissa Berenson.
I bet that trailer's going to be all like that. Is it Handel that's in that?
Dun,
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun, dun,
Yeah, it's
dun, dun.
what is it? Saraband or something? Saraband. Something.
Sarabandi. We're idiots. We are idiots.
But, so, for me, the biggest issue for me with this film, like, don't get me wrong, I've watched films that are 3 hours long. It's never fazed me, but I think the fact that I knew this was like a period drama and was over 3 hours long, I was just like, I think the amount of time I spent looking at it, thinking about putting it on, is actually amounted to longer than actually I spent watching the film.
It did feel daunting to me. I agree.
Yeah.
Especially like Kubrick. I always think of Kubrick as a very serious director, which is not entirely fair because like most of his films actually have quite a lot of comedy to them, and purposefully. But he never strikes me as a guy that you could have a joke with. So like
Yeah.
I think I was kind of always. I thought this film was going to be a bit of a dredge. And
it really wasn't.
It really isn't. No, it really isn't. It's
and it
slow,
actually goes a
but
lot
it's
quicker.
methodical, but it's not boring.
I'd say the first half is more comical than the second half.
Yes, the second half is not fun. The second half is not fun. Like,
and I think the first half is very much like him jumping from like different scenario to different scenario.
Yeah,
and like little mini adventures.
Yeah.
The second half is all at that one location.
Yeah, just that. Yeah,
like,
and it's his downfall really.
Yeah.
Like so like the films really is have I got a thing? Did I write something here? Yes. See, I'm being good this time. So Barry Lyndon, it chronicles the adventure of kind of a bit of a rogue, who's kind of his opportunism takes him from like an Irish farm to the 7 Years' War.
His name is Redmond Barry.
Redmond Barry, yeah. To like he then becomes into that kind of high society. And from there, he kind of marries into high society, and then it also charts his downfall from that as well. And yeah, that's the plot. That's the plot for 3.5 hours. Kubrick was obsessed, as we've talked about this before, recreating that kind of like decadent worlds that people lived in, the social codes of the period, and the light and texture of people at the time. Like he borrowed outfits from museums and stuff like that for people to wear. He went to Ireland specifically to shoot it because they have more 18th century buildings there. But I will say, as an archaeologist, I did find it funny that he was shooting in 18th century buildings, but they were clearly 200 years old.
This is one thing I was going to bring up. This is the one thing that always annoys me, like even in like Robin Hood or whatever, they're in these castles, but they're like falling down, or they've got nothing, you know, there's no tapestries against the window, like which would be to keep the warmth in and all this kind of stuff.
There's a bit when he was next to
roof.
He was at this new home, which would have been a really newly built house, but the stone had tons of lichen on it, which is that like growth. And I was like, that's been sitting there for like 200 years, that stone has. That's why it looks like that. Which is is the reason why I don't watch films with archaeologists, because we're boring.
I've always thought that. It's just a trope of that kind of...
It is, yeah. It did make me laugh that he went to so much incredible detail, but I actually think the buildings didn't... He could have... The exterior shots more, he didn't think about the detail as much. He just knew that it was an 18th century building, but he didn't think about the detail in it as much as he thought about the detail of the interiors, I guess.
The thing I liked about the film, though, was like it didn't... It felt contemporary without being contemporary, and it didn't try and jazz it up or modernize it, but it didn't feel stilted or laboured like a lot of other...
Yeah, it didn't feel laboured. It didn't.
Yeah.
I think it's well worth saying as well, Ireland as well. I don't know if you know this, but you know he got chased out of Ireland. I
heard that, yeah, the IRA. Like whether or not there were real threats or not, it scared him enough to get out of Ireland.
Yeah, basically I think they were the provisional IRA, which let's not get into the different factions of IRA.
No, but
it was during the Troubles, and basically because he was using, I think it was because he was using English extras, but he may have been using English military in this.
Okay,
they basically threatened him with 24 hours to leave the country, and with like, I don't know, 10 hours left or something like that, he kind of snuck onto a boat like in disguise and went back to England and never returned to Ireland.
Did they not realise that it was a £12 million production and most of that was being spent in Ireland?
It's not the point.
Sure, I know, but like, you know, that's going into fun, you know.
You're not wrong, but you weren't at the meeting, I guess. So
I didn't get the memo.
I didn't get the memo for that one. But it's very satirical in its way, and I've heard people describe this as a comedy, which I don't disagree with, because I think it is a kind of, well, comedy's the wrong word, but it's definitely satirical on what the upper classes think is important, and it's satirical in the fact that like all this stuff is going to lead, like, kind of all this kind of decadence and money and tricks and games is just going to lead you to kind of rack and ruin and not actually bring happiness. And it's kind of like it's a joke on the upper classes, this film is. I think that's what he's going for and what he saw in the script, at least.
Well, I mean, all the upper class people in this film come across as like dimwits or dolts. So, like, you know, like the at the beginning. I mean, we'll go through it a bit more beat by beat, but like, well, not to that much extent because you know there's 3 hours worth of film.
Beat
but
by
like,
beat.
But Leonard Rossiter from Rising Damp
yeah.
was in it, and as soon like I was looking at him, and I was thinking, "Fucking hell, it's Rigsby."
Is that what he's called in Rising Damp, Rigsby?
Yeah,
I've never seen
Rigsby.
it. I know that he's in Rising Damp and The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin.
Reginald Perrin.
Yeah, but I only
He's
know
really
him
good, though.
from his face. And when I was like, it's Leonard Rossiter, who's just incredibly famous British TV actor, really, and theatre actor.
Well, I think he died before we were born, I think, or like
Did he?
just thereabouts. Yeah, like 83, 84, he passed away.
Okay.
But I think he's also famous for doing like gin adverts or something like that. Like
it was a drink. It was like Campari or something, or like something like that. Yeah.
I think it was one of those like drinks that's meant to be a bit chavvy, but they kind of
they tried to make it posh.
Yeah, but he was the jokey character, the kind of like
didn't he do it with like a
boy kind of thing?
Didn't he? Wasn't it him and like some like famous actress like Elizabeth Taylor or someone like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's something like that.
And like it was like they were both ordering the same drink, and she was all classy, and he's like an idiot. I think those are the trailers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Io Cinzano bianco, signora.
Thank you.
Ah, yes, gracias.
Ah, due?
No, mine was a Cinzano as well. Now that's better. Oh, can't you just smell those Italian wines? Suffused with herbs and spices from 4 continents. Why, being boring. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Getting your head down, sweetie. Jolly good idea.
From the house of Cinzano Bianco.
But anyway, so you got him, and then you've kind of got the guy he attaches onto later on, who is like, the one he kind of does the card games with, and he like, like,
the
the Irish guy,
the Irish spy that he's got
spy,
a specific name. What do they call him? The cat? No, it's not the Countess. It's the Chevalier. The Chevalier. Yeah. The Chevalier. Yeah. Who's also a famous Irish actor, I believe so. I think he's in a number of Kubrick films.
But yeah, like the cinematography though. I mean, I know we alluded to it earlier, but it's just amazing. And you know, like they kind of used, I think it's William Hogarth, the painter, and they used like a lot of his works as inspiration for like, because if you think about it, that's the only documentation of what the lighting and how it would have
That's what
looked
rooms look like.
there.
Yeah, he noticed he got obsessed with collecting 18th century art, and he would notice like the placement of like furniture in a room. So he'd notice like lots of tables were placed near windows. So he'd made sure that when they shot scenes, tables were by windows. I mean, that's an obvious thing, but they were by windows because they used natural light more. But like if you look at William Hogarth's paintings, a lot of them have like, you know, a guy drunk sitting slouching on a chair and stuff. And like there's that scene at the end when he's like drowning his sorrows after his son's died. Yeah, that.
And he's just like slouched. And you just look at that frame and there's like all the other kind of drunks at the table and you're like, that is a painting.
Yeah.
That is like
that shot, that's with the gentleman's club. So it tracks through the whole club and it turns around and it's just got that table full of like people playing cards or whatever. And then they're all kind of drunk around it, and he's slouched in a chair facing away from that table. And that back wall is like that kind of royal blue, kind of tealy blue and stuff like that. And they all kind of have different kind of shades of these kind of dirty kind of colours in their clothing and stuff. And it just looks. I'd never seen something looking like that before on screen, because it doesn't look like a kind of $100 million film now or anything. It looks like an oil painting. It has the texture of like an oil painting to it. You almost can feel it. It feels velvety on screen. It's all credit. We have to say John Alcott was the cinematographer of this. I think people concentrate on Kubrick, but Alcott was the guy who would have been responsible for doing all this and coming up with the lighting and how to shoot all this kind of stuff. So it's worth pointing that out. And I think they won the Oscar for Barry Lyndon for that as well, so it wasn't like that was underappreciated at the time.
I mean he's worked on loads of Kubrick films, didn't he, before he passed? I think he may have passed before
86.
So he didn't So did he?
He did 2001, Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and Shining.
Yeah, so he didn't do Full Metal Jacket then.
No, he didn't. No, I think his last film was the Kevin Costner film No Way Out. Funny,
okay.
but yeah, like absolute credit to him for this film because it looks unlike any other film we've ever seen. And I can't say this enough. It's hard to describe what things look like in audio form, but it doesn't look like another film, and it's so worth just even looking at pictures of this film. Really.
Can I tell you my least favourite thing about this film though?
Sure.
Ryan O'Neal, Barry Lyndon
really?
himself. I'm not going to say he was terrible.
I felt he had a pretty good Irish accent. And actually,
he was okay. I mean, like Kubrick's films again, like we were talking about Terrence Malick the other week. I think again the dialogue is secondary to like a lot of the things in the film. And but I think there was a criticism about him being cast in this film, and there was a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, because the studio basically said you can make your Barry Lyndon 17th century film, but you need to have like a full star cast to it, and he doesn't really come with a full cast. Like there are a lot of good actors. They're all kind of British stage actors, really. There's no Hollywood actors. The studio were looking for Hollywood actors. Ryan O'Neal he did Paper Moon the year before. He got nominated for like Golden Globe for Best Actor. He was in Love Story when again he got the Academy.
I like
nominated
that
for
film.
Academy Award. Yeah. So like,
but I just don't.
And he was in like What's Up Doc and stuff like that. I don't want to present him as like he was no one in this film.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was particularly who the studio were looking for either. I think that was the controversy.
But I just didn't find him all that engaging as the part. I found him a bit vanilla, but that might be just me.
Sure.
I don't know. But I don't think he was terrible. He did an admirable job. But
I thought he was good, but I can see the criticism. Like,
someone else could have elevated it, but
yeah, they could.
Maybe
yeah.
he didn't want. Maybe he wanted the actual look and the feel to be the kind of the selling factor of the film, as opposed to like someone who was going to bring their.
I would argue as well because you're dealing with the character of Barry Lyndon, and he's a trickster rogue, someone who kind of impersonates different people, who changes all the time. He goes from one army to the other. He goes from through society and stuff like that. That not having a kind of marquee icon in that role helps that story, because you're watching him change in that film rather than seeing, I don't know, Jack Nicholson's face everywhere or something. Like.
Could you imagine Jack Nicholson?
I only picked him out because we talked about him, but whoever they could have picked at this time period.
So should we kind of get into it then a bit?
Yeah, let's try and go through a little bit, as is just to kind of get some conversation going. But like, so part one, it starts with part one, which is, by what means Redmond Barry acquired the style and title Barry Lyndon. So this tells like the kind of uprising of him. You know, one person we have to talk about in this film, actually, which I think elevates this film massively, is the narrator. Who should know his name, because I had it written down somewhere and I can't find it.
Michael Horden, I think.
Michael Horden. Okay.
Yeah. And he's kind of like an unreliable narrator, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. He's elevates the film though. He's constantly present throughout the whole film. He's always telling you what's going on and what's happening, and kind of adding depth to kind of what you see on screen. He's got a great voice. It's so like just a silky smooth voice that I really just enjoyed listening to the whole film. That was it. I loved the narrator in this.
I think he was like Gandalf in the BBC like radio dramatization of like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings back in the day and stuff like that. Yeah. And but apparently in the book, Barry Lyndon is the narrator of his own book. It's not like
I think it works in this to have it not be Barry Lyndon, because the commentary can be quite cutting about him in times, and kind of really comment on what's going on, which I think really helped. Kind of it for me. The narration helped this film be not boring, and it helped me kind of not get lost in it. And I think it was I think narration isn't a thing that's in a lot of films, but it really worked in this.
Well, because it added a bit of character to it, and like it kind of became its own like
and comedy.
Like
it was funny.
Yeah. So it kind of opens up with him like playing almost like not stripped it, like he was playing cards with his cousin.
Well, yeah, but first, no, I'm not going to keep doing this, but first his dad does die in a duel, which is important for like everything that happens in the film, really. So Barry's dad dies right off in a duel. He's just raised with his mom. But yeah, he plays a game with his cousin of hiding the ribbon in her boobs or something.
Yeah.
Well, she hides it in her own boobs, and then she tells him to find the ribbon, and he kind of doesn't want to.
Well, he does and doesn't. I think
Yeah, he's like embarrassed. I think he's meant to be quite young, I'm guessing. But like, I like the bit when she's like, "I'll give you a hint," and just puts his hand on her breast.
Well, to be fair, like, as soon as I started watching this, I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?"
Yeah. Why does it have to be his cousin? Come on, England.
But then, like, after that scene, you're treated to like a massive, huge army kind of like playing music, don't you? Which is that sets the scope of like how the photography is going to be in this film. I think because it's like a massive wide shot that kind of zooms out, and
you just see massive landscapes and this kind of red coats marching all the way through it because it's the 7 Years' War against Napoleon. I think one of my favourite lines in this later on from the narrator is something like, I haven't got it written down, but he says something along the lines of like, the 7 Years' Wars is incredibly complicated, and we're not going to get into it right now, but like, needless to say, it was Napoleon versus these countries or whatever. Like, and I kind of like even the narrator's kind of like, whatever. You don't need to know all that. It's complicated. You just need to know that England's here and Prussia's there.
So we're introduced to Leonard Roster's character, who kind of then is kind of paired, like, so the cousin of Barry Lyndon is, well, Redmond Barry. They spark a relationship together, don't they?
Yeah.
And then Barry is kind of upset about this.
Yes. She's kind of like trapped in a bit of her family want her to marry this rich army officer and
to get them out of debt and stuff.
Yeah. I think Leonard Rossiter was really good here. I think he was really good in that role.
I was sad that he didn't come back.
Yeah, I kind of was.
This film is kind of filled with like cameos essentially because
because it keeps moving.
Other than Barry Lyndon, everybody else kind of rotates around. Not rotates, but kind of like a new character comes in, and he always seems to have a new father figure in each little
constantly
segment.
Yeah.
So in this one, it's the other general kind of guy that's kind of like looking out for him. Yeah,
his best mate is Captain Grogan, who's played by Godfrey Quigley. Yeah, he's a kind of father figure throughout all this bit. Basically, we'll go quickly because this film's long. But during like an engagement announcement, Barry gets really upset and chucks a glass of wine at John Quinn, Leonard Rossiter, which causes them to have a duel, which will be a normal thing in his life.
But this goes back to like we were talking about Hamilton. That's as well.
They're fucking mad. They're absolutely mad.
Were they legal back then? I don't get how they were.
No, and yes. There's your answer.
Because in Hamilton they went to another state or another area, didn't they?
In America, I think it was probably state. There was areas where you could do it, probably, and probably the South. I don't know. In England, I don't think they were legal. I don't think. But there was what I found. I should have looked up the history of duels because there's a lot of dueling in this film. What I did find interesting is that there's different ways of dueling. Because in this one, which is more like, I don't know, the kind of peasant Irish way, they just basically both get a gun each and shoot at each other. And then later on, when it's with like the upper class people dueling, they both take it in turns, like they flick a coin and take it in turns to shoot. Which I thought was
way seems a bit unfair because someone's got like, the advantage straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas the other way is more like the Wild West, isn't it? Where it's just like draw.
Yeah, but you do have to remember that I think as guns got better, it would change the way dueling happened because.
I guess so.
Because guns are especially pistols, are so inaccurate at this time period that it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't actually kind of certain that if you pointed a gun at someone, you'd hit them, and I guess that's what the dueling was kind of based on. I don't know. I'm not talking out my arse. I don't know anything about this stuff.
But anyway, so they have this duel,
Yeah.
and it appears that Barry wins, but then has to go on the run.
I love Leonard
But,
Rossiter in this bit. He's hamming it up so amazingly. He's
Oh,
so, like,
yeah, his face
just-
is amazing.
He's chewing like his own face off, and he's so nervous.
But you just have to watch Rising Damp, and he's doing those faces in
Yeah.
the show, like left, right, and centre. But like, I guess we can say that it was a ruse, wasn't it? Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't like a real. It was
So
like a
her,
fake.
her family set it all up that he's got. Did they say they just basically put a bone, a bit of bone
Something
in
like
it as
that.
a bullet, so it doesn't. When he fires it, it just disintegrates the bone,
There's
basically.
a word for it, isn't it? It's loaded with tow. Loaded
Toe.
with tow.
Yeah, toe, yeah.
So tow is coarse. Is a coarse broken fibre removed during the process of processing flex hemp or jute.
Okay, cool. It's basically something they've put in there that when it fires it, it basically just blew up. So there's
So it
there's no
definitely
real
hit him,
projectile.
though, wouldn't-
Yeah, it
Oh,
hit
nothing
him.
came out.
I don't think
Oh,
there's
it
any
did hit him.
projectile. I don't think there's any. I think basically it makes a loud bang, but it burns up before it hits him. Because when they reveal it to later that John Quinn lived, Captain Grogan says something like, "You gave him a right scare, but like he was absolutely fine," or something, and nothing hit him.
Well, no, he said he was out for the count for like a couple of hours or something. So
But
he
weren't they
definitely
joking that he
knocked him out.
passed out? He fainted.
That's what I gathered.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Maybe I'm incorrect.
But yeah, so that means because he kills an English officer in occupied Ireland, he has to flee then, because that's a bad thing to do
Yeah.
if you're Irish. It's a good thing to do, actually, but it's a bad thing to do in the eyes of the British Army. But like, he flees to Dublin, and that kind of starts up the whole story then. Because on the way, he gets robbed by Feeney, Captain Feeney.
This is one of my favourite scenes in the film, I think.
It's wonderful. Yeah, I
But
absolutely
like,
loved it.
I love the fact though that a lot of the things that happened to Barry Lyndon later on would have happened to him anyway. So if he sat down to have dinner with these guys, they would have robbed him anyway.
Sure, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like a lot of the things you think, oh, he could have avoided, would have probably happened to him anyway.
Yeah, that's good. That's
So-
a really good point. But yeah,
like-
this guy, Captain Feeney, is a real highwayman. He was operating in Ireland at
Okay.
the time. Highwaymen were big problems at the time period because highways weren't
Yeah.
patrolled and they weren't managed by cops or police or anything like that. So they were basically like traveling between places was always dangerous. That's where highwaymen came from.
Who was the big British one? Dick Turpin. No.
Dick Turpin, yeah, that's one of the famous
Yeah.
ones, yeah. And yeah, so he's traveling and they push a tree down in the road and stop his horse and then just rob him, and they rob him of all the money he got from his mom, which is quite a lot of money.
Yeah, was
and
it 30 guineas or something
like that, yeah. Which I'm not going to try.
I
and
was
guess
trying to
how much
work
it was,
out
though, but-
how much a guinea was the
Oh,
other
God.
day.
Let's start this again.
Because later on he buys a horse for 80 guineas, and I was trying
Okay.
to think how much is that in the UK money, and then there was some convoluted thing, so you times it by something and then divide it by something, and that equals, and then I was like, so then when I worked it out, I was like, oh, so it's £82, but that can't be right for a horse.
I don't know.
But then I don't know. Anyway, we've learnt that money is not our good point.
No, we're not converting old money, especially old money. Were guineas still old money in the 70s? That's a question. Let's move
I
on.
assume so. I don't know.
So because of this, he ends up he keeps his boots though, but they rob his horse. But they tell him he can keep his boots, which I liked.
Yeah.
He ends up in the British Army then, because it's the only place to go when you got no money and you're poor and you just need somewhere to live. So he then goes to Europe to go to war. Against.
But the captain's there, isn't it? The guy that the
Yeah,
general
eventually the
later
captain turns up. Captain Grogan turns up. Yeah, so they end up in the same.
tells him he didn't actually kill anyone.
Yeah, tells him you didn't have to really go anywhere. They just wanted you to stop trying to have sex with Nora.
Man, that scene when they're all marching towards.
My god, yeah,
the
I love
army
this. The
and-
narration here as well. He goes like, although this skirmish isn't recorded in the history books, it's all too memorable for the people who took part in it. And I like
it's
that
just-
kind of.
It's just like a human shield. Like
Yeah.
people are just like dropping like flies, and you think this is fucked.
It's ridiculous. I love how like this warfare lasted from here until like World War One, and they just thought,
Yeah, I
well, just
know.
march towards the guns. The guns will give up at some point, apparently. That was the idea. And yeah, so they're slowly marching across the whole landscape, and the French are just shooting at them, and they're just coming forward, and slowly they're getting hit. And obviously guns are really inaccurate, but now they still get hit, and they're all just dropping, and they keep walking and stuff like that. And then, but his friend gets shot, Captain Grogan, and I think the scene where they drag him to now, the kind of ditch with the dead bodies in and the kind of dirty wood. This shot. Oh my god, it's gorgeous! It's one of the best shots I've ever seen.
Amazing shot, and it just like I was watching it, and I was thinking, I wish this is the one thing I've got to learn with filmmaking. Like because I've done too many music videos. I over edit stuff, and I know I do, and I have to slow it down. And I'm gonna try and just kind of not shoot so much coverage that gives me an excuse when I'm editing to just kind of
to cut to
for
coverage.
every shot in, and just kind of let the scene play out with the actors, and just focus on the mise en scène of it, and just kind of like this just that it just really inspired me, that one shot.
I thought
massively.
I thought it was amazing.
It was really powerful, and I was like, that's an amazing shot. And it like, I actually got goose pimples and like my hair raised. I was like, that is stunning, and it really is like lit a fire in my ass about how I can.
But it just the colours in it, the browns mixed with the reds of the uniforms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then like the kind of the green of the blue of the sky and everything. It was just looked amazing to me, and it just looked how it looked dirty. I know what that, I've been in that field. I've been in places where like the water's running down a wood bank down the side or something like that, and it just looks horrible and shitty, and there's nothing glorious about it, and it's just people dying around. And I thought that was so cool. I just like really same. I saw that shot and went, just fuck, that is a shot.
Yeah, because there's a lot of the scenes in this film, they're quite long takes, aren't they? So like, I think the first 30 minutes is of all of the stuff with his cousin.
Yeah, probably.
And literally, it's like 5 scenes. That's it. So the first 30 minutes is just 5 scenes. But so after this, is this where he kind of catches the generals like bathing? Yes,
he captures the 2 guys bathing. Yeah, which is it's one of those first zoom shots. It goes from really far out and looks into the guys bathing in the lake, and it's kind of a weird little scene because they're obviously a couple. And they're talking about...
Yeah, that's what I gathered.
Yeah.
I was like, is that what... Am I getting this right?
They've been planning to kind of run away together after the war, but one of them had to take another commission to go back into Prussia for some reason. And they were basically arguing about that. Which, yeah, you would have an argument about. It's fine to have an argument about it. It's just very weird how it was in this film, really.
But I quite like that it wasn't like... They just kind of let it be, and they didn't have to kind of... Exactly. They didn't make them overly... Like in the 70s, you'd have thought, they would have kind of really hammed this up. Or
yeah, they were a little softly spoken, but
a little bit, yeah.
But not anything that it just felt. I don't know, it just felt really weirdly normal. Like, and of course that would happen in the bloody army, and of course that would happen in in this time period and stuff. Yeah, like, so I just thought it was kind of cool more than anything else.
So Barry then steals like one of the outfits and the horses.
He impersonates himself as one of the officers, and goes into Prussia. To pretend that he's going to hand some important papers to someone. I don't know.
Is this where he meets the young woman with the child first?
Yeah, she's gorgeous. This Prussian girl that he stays with, she's absolutely gorgeous. So he just meets...
Suppose you've got some supper.
Yeah, so he meets a Prussian girl, they sleep together, he leaves again, and then he bumps into the Prussian captain Potzdorf. Potzdorf's played by Harvey Kruger, who's a huge German actor, actually. Really interesting life. He served in the SS and quit. I think he quit the army and ended up getting put in prison for it or something like that. Really interesting life. I can't really go into it when we're going to be here for forever. But Harvey Kruger is the actor, and he's worth looking up, actually.
But he sees through his ruse, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sees through his ruse almost immediately. That he's obviously just some escaped private from the English army, and he basically gives him an option of, we'll either hand you over to the English army, and then you'll basically be hung as a deserter, or you can fight for the Prussian army, and you get the kind of you get this kind of narration here and this showing that the Prussian army is a very different beast than the English army at this time period. It's full of criminals. It's full of like poorer people. It's full of escaped people from other armies. And the army service there is horrible. Like they whip them all the time, and there's a lot of like really harsh service and stuff. And they show you all that kind of like change to that service.
He kind of becomes another father figure, though.
Absolutely does. I think so. Yeah, I think he ends up really liking him actually.
Because like later on during like a siege, like a wooden beam falls on him.
This is amazing. This war, this
fight.
It's like it's all set in this little building, and the camera keeps peeking out of like the little windows to look at what's going on outside, and then coming back in again. But it's full of fire.
It's just like this, like the cool guys don't look back at explosions. I was thinking like this is like the first one, because you just got them like standing there walking away as the things are exploding behind them. I was thinking when, because you get like Pottsdorf walks into the building, there's already fire all through this building and stuff, and it's all tracking shot, it's all one shot and then cuts once or twice. There's fire everywhere. I was like they actually set fire to this building and then filmed a scene in it. Like, that's what they did. And, like, not a small scene. They set fire to the whole thing, threw a beam on one actor, had another actor lift the beam off, and then escaped the building with the whole camera crew in there, in this burning building. I mean, I'm not making that up. That is what they did. But yeah, he somehow, like, he leverages it up, doesn't he? So he can free him, and then they escape. But then he gets commended, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets commendation for that, and that means he gets a job in the Prussian military police. And they ask him... We're going through this quite quickly. They ask him to be be a servant to the Chevalier de Balabi.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Who is like a kind of professional gambler, which is apparently a job. This is something I learned in this film. They think that Chevalier is an Irish spy and he's serving the Austrians, and he's come over here to spy on the Prussians. So they tell him to go over there and pretend to be Prussian, but kind of
I love
spy
it. As soon
on
as he
him.
goes over there, he just blabs straight away.
Yeah, it's like 2 seconds.
Because he can hear the Irish accent, and he's just like...
I kind of liked it. The narration was kind of like, if you've never been away from your home, you don't realize how much connection you're missing, or something like that. And immediately those two become like really good friends, because they're both, Irish people abroad in this society they don't really belong in kind of Europe and stuff like that. So they both become like fast friends, and they end up starting to look like starting to get schemes together to cheat at cards. He pretends
they've got their own little
system.
If he cleans the table one way or lifts up a glass or
whatever. Then he's got like a heart, and he's got like a full house if he does this and whatever. But that scene when they're playing cards that's when the whole room's just lit by like 1,000 candles, as far as I can tell.
It looks amazing.
They end up being something that happens, but they end up having to escape Prussia. I can't remember why now, but it doesn't matter.
Well, they get accused of cheating that one game, don't they?
Oh yeah, the Prince of like Austria or whatever accuses them of cheating at cards.
Yeah.
And something. I think there's going to be a duel, and the Prussians don't want a duel, so they say they're going to they'll get the Chevalier out of the country.
Yeah, but eventually, like, Barry then starts playing poker with them, doesn't he? But the other guy's kind of got one of those devices that will put a card like into his palm of his hand, and then as he turns the card over, he's like, "Oh."
Yeah, but they basically escape Prussia, and they decide to kind of be these big card sharks or something, going away across Europe, just into the biggest courts in the land. And
it's like several films, like all mashed together, isn't it? Like, like all the different things that he kind of gets up to.
You could absolutely make a film of just like two Irish kind of card sharks going through like the courts of Belgium and just cheating at cards and stuff like that. That could be an entire film, but this is like a section of this.
To be fair though, the section of this is probably as long as
like 40 minutes of this. I think, like, and they're really successful. The Chevalier looks mental in his makeup, but whatever. And they kind of end up making a lot of money, but living a really kind of dangerous, unsatisfactory life. I think I get the kind of impression from it. And that's when he meets the Countess of Lyndon.
Yeah, who's got the oldest husband
Yeah,
ever.
who's married to an incredibly
like
old,
a
sickly
wheelchair.
man. Yeah.
That was one of my favourite scenes where he is like, what does he say? Oh, it's something like, you can take me for a cuckold, but not an idiot.
Yes. Yeah. I'd be rather
was-
known as a cuckold than an idiot or a fool.
I was wetting myself with that line.
Because he kind of comes into the room and he's like, "So you've been done with my wife today or something?" Like, but he ends up kind of dying because Barry insults him. I'm not totally sure what sets it off.
Yeah, he just kind of has a heart attack or something.
Yeah. He just has a seizure because Barry calls him an idiot. I don't know. But yeah, this is another just the texture of these rooms they're in at the moment. Just absolutely amazing. I think they're all set.
Yeah.
It's meant to be Spa in Belgium, I believe. And it all looks absolutely just stunning. Like just feel. You could feel like you'd lick the walls. Don't know what that means.
No.
Anyway, old man
What
dies.
would a Georgian era kind of wall taste like?
Tobacco, probably. I don't know.
Tobacco.
Opium.
Okay.
Lead. A lot of lead. Lead was in everything at the time for it. Lead was in everything. Every bit of paint. What are we doing? Oh yeah, old man dies.
That's the end of that.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that part, isn't it?
Yeah, then it's the intermission.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And then it's part 2, which is containing an account of the misfortunes and disasters which befell Barry Lyndon.
So yeah, this one's is much more of a bummer.
Yeah, much more of a bummer.
And it doesn't really jump around anymore. It kind of just stays.
Yeah, so when one before it went Ireland to kind of Prussia to France to Belgium to whatever, like this one is just all set in Lyndon, wherever Lyndon is, wherever the Countess of Lyndon lives. I don't think I wrote that down.
How long do you think the whole span of the film is? Like, how old do you think he's meant to be at the beginning till he's at the end?
It's meant to be quite a long time, isn't it? Definitely.
So
It's meant to be like
by
years
the time
and
he's
years.
married to her, it's 1773. Oh, the beginning bit is 1750. So he's probably about 18 then or something.
The final scene's
So,
set in
yeah.
1789.
So he looks very young for the age he is.
Is that your
Anyway.
takeaway?
Yeah.
So he takes on his wife's name at that point, and so he becomes Barry Lyndon. He
Just
also
because he
takes
wants-
on her wealth, but the narrator kind of tells us that she doesn't mean anything more to him than her wealth.
Yeah, but also whatever he buys technically isn't even owned by
No,
him. I
no,
guess.
he's
It's
just
like
spending
it'll
her
be his-
wealth, and that's all he's doing at the moment. Really, he's spending her wealth and buying like just wasting her money basically on shit.
Well, he wants to. I mean, you find out later on that he can't become a lord. He could become a lord,
Yeah,
but he's kind of got to appease these people, doesn't he? I guess so. That's
Yeah.
where he starts buying the really expensive.
yeah. He's
paintings
trying to
and-
pretend that he's one of them, basically, and they kind of all see through him quite easily. His stepson hates him, who's Lord Bullingdon, and Barry kind of gets back at him by being incredibly physically abusive to the kid.
Yeah, just smacks
From,
him with a
like a
whip
really
or
young
whips
age.
his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have fake Alan Cumming here.
Oh, as the
There's the
teacher.
Reverend, who's Murray Melvin, the actor's name is, and he's a seasoned theatre actor. I think he nails this Reverend. I love.
Yeah,
the
he's
Reverend.
really good. He's got those eyes. Those
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
like-
So the Reverend's
Old
kind of
guys.
like the wife's kind of confidant, teaches the kids and stuff like that. He's the kind of that kind of like person who's really in charge of the household more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But his mom comes back into the picture now. Barry Lyndon's mom comes and lives with them. And she's obviously enjoying being a fancy person. And she tells him that he's got to become titled to get his
Yeah.
own money. That's right. Yeah, yeah,
So,
okay, yeah.
You know, he has an affair with one of the helpers, like one of the
Yeah,
maids.
one of her maids, yeah.
The baby, that's not his though, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, that is his baby. So he has
Yeah.
a baby, a legitimate child with her as well.
yeah. So,
Okay.
I don't know, actually.
That's what I was confused about, because I know.
I know he has a son with Lady, the Countess,
Yeah.
who is Brian. Is that right? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
But I'm not sure. Maybe
Brian's
the maid's
son, yeah.
kid is his.
Maybe.
Probably
Anyway.
is.
But there's that
a-
great shot, the one you're on about, where they catch them kissing and stuff like that.
There's a shot after this. She is in a bath in her slip, like in clothes, and the bath is like a massive porcelain chair with water around it. It's the fanciest thing I've ever seen anyone sit in.
Because she's not she's naked, but not because she's got that thing draped over.
Yeah, she's got a proper slip over, and a hat on and stuff. It's like her bathing clothes. Because you can't bathe naked. That would be horrible.
I'm assuming that's the inception of young Brian Patrick.
What?
That's where they have sex to have a child.
Yes.
I'm not sure if because this is where he starts to pay more attention to his wife. I'm
little
guessing.
bit more, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's again just to have a child.
Yeah, because it's one of the things he needs. It's a child.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What he needs, and then will be one of the bearers of the legacy of the Lincoln estate or whatever. And so then he's still in the loop, because if it's just the other son, as soon as that son becomes of age,
he will cut him out of the family. Yeah,
he's fucked.
Yeah. So it cuts through a number of years now, just them growing up. His son's getting older, and Lord Bullington's also getting older. But Lord Bullington's like dolted to his mom, whereas Brian is kind of dolted to his dad. You got that funny magician scene here, which is just.
I love this, where the sheep.
Yes.
Pulling the carts
away and stuff. Yeah, and the huge stage they're on doing magic from is just massively high for no reason.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's good though, because everyone's sitting down on the one level can all see it because they're looking at. But the kid who plays the older son has got one of those proper sickly looking guys.
Yeah.
But apparently he becomes Kubrick's
he does
assistant.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I'm not going to get his name off the top of my head, but he's Leon Vitali, and he becomes Kubrick's personal assistant for the rest of his life. And he there's a documentary about him, and about that's apparently quite good. I've never watched it, but it's apparently quite good, about his relationship to Kubrick and stuff. But I think he's really good in this, Leon Vitali. I think he nails that Lord Bullington character. Yeah, so Lord Bullington's kind of getting older and older, to the point that he kind of ends up crashing a party. I think it's meant to be his mom's birthday party or something.
Before that though, you've got the scene where the two brothers are
arguing over
together,
a pencil. Yeah,
pencil, and then the older brother just beats the other one on the ass, and then Barry comes in, grabs him, and then actually proper starts whipping.
Absolutely beats the crap out of the older one. Yeah. And he basically has enough of it, so just crashes this party in front of all the rich kind of friends and the stuff that Barry's been trying to kind of, ingratiate himself with. And he basically just says how Barry is an absolute scallion and a rogue and a.
But before that though, he makes his younger brother wear his shoes, so when he comes in, he's just making this awful noise as his feet are shuffling along in these shoes. Just to be an ultimate.
Just to be a dick, because she's playing the piano, isn't she, or the harpsichord or something and the young kid's just stomping around, really happy with himself that he's causing a disturbance.
What does Barry do to him to cause his injury that he claims was because of Barry later on?
I'm not sure, but Barry just basically at this point loses his rag with him and beats the ever-loving crap out of him, doesn't he?
Yeah, in front of everyone.
In front of absolutely everyone, and they have to dive in to try and separate them, and they can't, and Barry's still going at it and stuff. There's a really good shot after this that's him alone on the ground, just staring at the kind of lake, and instead of zooming into him, it zooms out from him, And I really liked it how it was just kind of, he was so isolated after that. Like, he goes from being, he's going to be in the, he's going to be in this world, he's going to get a title, he's going to get his own money, and just because this one event, he knows it's gone. He knows he hasn't got any chance of that happening. And it just kind of slowly zooms out to just show the kind of emptiness around him with that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Lord Bullington quits England then, though, doesn't he? Like the older child.
Yeah, he goes off. Yeah, but you don't see any of that.
No, you don't see any of that, because he just left with Brian, who Barry absolutely dolts on to. Yeah. He doesn't reject him anything, and the kid wants a full-size horse to go hunting with.
But we know at this point that the money's like depleting.
Yeah. He's spending too much.
Because he's bought loads of land, and he didn't realise that you've got to pay the mortgages, then you've got to pay for the people to look after the land,
upkeep
look after
and the rents
and all this kind of stuff, and it's just kind of spiralling out of control.
Yeah.
And all she's doing is just signing the
checks away,
checks and stuff like that.
And he ends up buying his son a full-size horse, even though he's 9 years old. The son learns about this and sneaks off to the farm to go ride it before it's actually broken in, and it ends up throwing him from the horse, which paralyzes the kid, and he later on succumbs to his injuries in bed. So Brian dies.
That scene is actually quite heartbreaking.
Yeah. I think the kid that played Brian was really good. I think it was
he was actually a really good
performance. Throughout all of it, not just this bit, but out of all of it, I thought he was really kind of into it, really committed. Because that younger son dies, the Countess kind of plunges into like devotion with the Reverend and gets really religious, and Barry goes the opposite way and gets into drink. And she attempts suicide because so the mom fires the Reverend to kind of further cut off kind of the money from like outside influence, really. And because her like faithful Reverend's not there anymore, she kind of like loses it even further and attempts suicide, but she doesn't take enough poison to actually kill herself. She just makes herself really ill. So the Reverend then, with another guy, goes out to find Lord Bullington himself. And he tells him to come back because he needs to save like the family's fortune. And
then you get that great shot where he comes into it's not the house, it's some sort of like,
it's like a gentleman's club, which I don't know what that meant then. Probably a lot of drink and like cocaine or something, I don't know. But it's just like this grand house where there's just loads of very drunk people lying all over the floor and on chairs and stuff like that. And he just walks through the whole thing. You can see this kind of him. He's kind of hobbling. He kind of walks all the way through and finds Barry and kind of like stomps his staff on the ground to say like, you ruined my honor. We need to have a duel. And Barry doesn't even react to him.
He doesn't even wake up.
No, he doesn't even move, and he has to kind of poke him and lift his head up a little bit and stuff like.
But this scene is like just beautiful. It looks like like I said, like one of those paintings.
Yeah, it's one of the best single shots of a room I've ever seen. Without a doubt. Like that's not
just
even
the people in the background who aren't doing anything. They're just kind of slumped over, but they kind of say they've got so much character in the way they just kind of pose.
And just the color of their clothes, like that kind of pink of some of their like textures of their jackets and stuff like that, and not like really bright but kind of dirty pink, something that looks worn as well. It doesn't look like they went out and sewed this that day. It looks like this guy's worn this jacket for 30 years or something because it's his best jacket or something, and it just feels like that in that scene. It's amazing, really. Which is some clothes I think people forget when they put into films, that if you have to make it new, it's going to look new on screen. So either you find old clothes and they look old on screen, or you have to kind of artificially wear them before they get onto screen and stuff like that. And I just think they whoever they did got to do all this stuff nailed that kind of aesthetic of it. Everything looked lived in, everything looked real. So basically they go for a duel now, and it's all taking place in this huge tithe barn. Just another massively wonderful set, like huge ceilings to it, and they're both either side of it. And they flip a coin, and Lord Bullington gets first fire, but he's so nervous he just misfires the gun before even pointing it at Barry. Barry then, in like an act of mercy, points his gun at the floor and shoots it.
like he's an arsehole, but I don't think he's necessarily like he's in it for himself, but I don't think he's like a fully hateful. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
He's
you're
not a
right.
nice
He's not a
guy,
nice person, but I
he's-
don't think he's an evil person. At any point, he's
Yeah,
still
he's-
kind of like the hero of the film a little bit. Like,
yeah.
yeah. So in Act of Mercy, he points the gun at the floor and just shoots at the floor.
Because he could have easily just killed him there
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that's then it's kind of better for him really, but he doesn't do that.
But the Lord Bullington still decides that he's got to go through with this. I love the scene he's throwing up in the corner. It's just cutting to the faces of the guys.
Yeah.
And so Lord Bullington again goes for round 2. He could just say, "I've got my satisfaction," and walk away, but he goes for round 2 and shoots Barry in the leg, and that ends the duel. And then later on, you get Barry lying in like an inn, just with a big hole in his leg. I love the surgeon at this point, who's like, he's kind of poking it. He keeps poking
Yeah,
that
it's like,
hole, as if he was going to come up with any other
underneath.
solution rather than I'm going to cut it off. It's the 18th century. Cutting the leg off, that's the number one solution for everything. So he has to have his leg removed at this point, and Lord Bullington.
It's some good prosthetics though, because
It
like he's
is,
sitting on
yeah.
the bed, because he doesn't just lay there; he does move around on the bed,
Mm.
and the stump moves him. So obviously his leg is actually in the bed.
Yeah, must be.
So, but there's enough of a hole in there that he can kind of move around and stuff, and he looks quite good.
Later on, when he's walking to the wagon and you
Yeah, it
see him
looks
from
really
the
good.
front and back, I don't know where his leg was. You know, like,
Yeah, they did
and obviously it's there. They didn't cut it off, but like it looks really good, and it's moving. It moves a little bit like it's probably a false leg, and they've got the leg further up or something. I don't know, like, but it's very good prosthetics. Yeah, but he gets a naughty now of every year of 500 guineas a year as long as he leaves England and never comes back. And what kind of shocked me at this point when they kind of bring the wagon to collect him from the inn to take him back to Ireland is the entire street scene here is just covered in hay to make it look really old. And I just kept on thinking about how long it took this crew to just cover this entire street scene in hay. I should have looked where it was shot, actually, that street scene, because it was obviously somewhere like an old village centre or something.
He did shoot outside of Ireland for some bits, I think, though, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He finished the film, outside of Ireland after he got scared off. So he did shoot in England, and he shot, I think, some.
Oh, so he never went back to Ireland after?
No,
after
he never went back.
Okay. But like, I mean, just what a stunning film, though. I mean, it
Yeah.
looks amazing. It's shot on 70mm, I think. So
Yeah.
it's it looks incredible.
It's
But,
like it cleans up incredibly well because it's 70mm. It's just, I don't know, it's wonderful. And I think what was amazing about it for me is it wasn't boring. Like, it's 3.5 hours
Yeah.
long or whatever, and it was just kept on going, and it wasn't like tiresome.
It's like with Badlands, like just a film that I should have seen a long time ago,
Sure.
and just for some fucking reason I hadn't seen it. And
Yeah.
again, like, had I seen like I said I had that epiphany, which
Yeah.
is it's not really an epiphany because it's like,
Yeah,
it's,
you know
it's
it.
obvious.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
once you see it and you're like thinking, no, it's more powerful to have an image, even if it's static or it doesn't move, and it's more powerful just to kind of have the performance and the way
Sure.
the
To
set-
sit with it.
the way it's all dressed, as opposed to having the camera move around everywhere. And yeah, sure, that's great, and having cuts does help as well. But
Yeah.
like, obviously Kubrick was so confident in his craft that he just was like,
He was also a photographer as well, so that's how he thought about it.
and like, there's definitely an insecurity in overshooting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm definitely guilty of, because I am a professional filmmaker, but not
Yeah.
obviously to the level that
Yeah,
Kubrick is.
yeah.
And
Sure.
it's just one thing I definitely am going to try and work on in the future is less, because less is more sometimes. And
Sure.
I think, even though this is a very long film,
Yeah.
it's not overly cut, or it's well paced. It's not boring. It engages you throughout.
And I think what's interesting to do with the fact that he kept on making books, and especially this book, is like this book is the type of book that I would never watch a film of, because it's incredibly talky book. Like, it's a really long, big, thick, talky book, and you'd think the film would be that, and it's not. Like, the film isn't talky, the film is visual. And what Kubrick managed to do is take these big, like, thick texts of books and make them into visual pieces. And I think that's his skill. And I think, like what you're saying about things like those shots, that's what makes these films work, because he just turns it into these, like, sumptuous kind of art pieces. Not art pieces, but sumptuous kind of things to watch. Like, it's
about staging and blocking. It's like, like, because this is obviously, it's got 2 acts like a play, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, going back to, we were talking about Hamilton again, like, you know, it's a stage that can't move. It's just about how they use that area and kind of the way that they block it and they act. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of lit a spark in me that's kind of, I just thought it was a really good film. And I'm kicking myself for not watching it. So, you know.
Well, it's good because it's a type of film that, as we said right at the beginning, like, I know I like Kubrick. I know Kubrick's a great filmmaker, but I've never watched this film. And it's a nice thing that we can do this and actually get to these films and push ourselves to watch these films that we just haven't really tried to do before. And I think that's really cool. And hopefully other people are discovering that too.
Yeah, I mean, our friend Natalie, who is coming on next week when we talk about...
LA May.
Is it Mikey and Nikki?
Mickey and Nikki, I think. I think it's Mickey.
But it's spelled Makey.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that'd be Mikey.
I think it's Mickey and Nikki. We'll find out.
Is it Mickey?
We'll find out.
But anyway, I think Natalie's been joined. She's watched all the films.
That's cool.
Which I think is really nice, and we hope more of you actually do that.
Please,
we still don't know how many people listen to this, or if anybody does.
But my last count was, I think, 100 million people.
100 million.
Yeah. I think.
But no, we would love people to watch along with us and kind of.
That's the whole point, and kind of get to watching these films that maybe we've over the years just ignored, because there's so many films come out all the time that sometimes you get lost in, like.
Yeah, totally. And again, these films were before our time.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's nice that we can look back and just say, yeah, there were amazing films made before we were born.
And it's good to see, like, I mean, this film flopped at the time.
It's been reevaluated.
It got reevaluated by people like Lars von Trier. It's his favourite film. I think Scorsese says it's his favourite Kubrick. I think Ridley Scott's first film was massively based on this. And actually Wes Anderson, who's a filmmaker I love, is massively influenced by this. And you can tell the way he moves the camera and stuff like Rushmore is totally how Barry Lyndon is.
I was just going to say Rushmore 100%.
Yeah.
Because, again, Max in that is a very kind of selfish character.
Yeah.
Again,
absolutely.
you don't think of him as a bad person, but he's definitely selfish. I think I think Barry does learn a lesson after his son dies.
Yeah.
He definitely learns a lesson because of that, I think.
That's a bit of a harsh lesson.
Yeah, but he learns that he can actually love someone that's not himself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But he does tell you at the end of the film that he just went off and be a gambler again, but didn't ever find any success with it. So
I think that's the thing with films. They think once someone's learned a lesson, they think, oh, they're a changed person.
Oh, yeah.
No, a lot of times people will revert back to who they were if they're not, like, kind of constantly pushed or challenged or, you know, kept on that course. People will revert.
I will
back.
say, in terms, it won 4 Oscars as well, and it was for, like, art direction, costume design, cinematography, and score. And there's no argument in those 4. Like,
yeah,
Oscars,
it's all the technical, technical, but kind of like behind the scenes stuff.
But the visual stuff, like, and the score as well, because the score is kind of amazing.
Pat Roach was in this film, and Pat Roach he's like the big dude in Raiders of the Lost Ark who has the fight with Indiana Jones under the plane.
Yeah, he gets shot. Yeah, he was a boxer or something.
He was in Clockwork Orange as well.
Oh, he is in this. That's the scene when he joins the army, and a guy takes the piss out of him moaning about grease in his cup, and they have a boxing match.
That's how I forgot about that. That's amazing. Like, somehow he's really good at stuff that he's never done before. So, like, he's like
never done boxing before.
He's good at fighting.
Yeah,
he's kind of.
I was gonna say, because Ryan O'Neal, before he was an actor, was a boxer.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and he was quite a successful amateur boxer. Actually, I think he only had 3 losses or something, and quite a number of wins or something. So and then he became an actor. So that boxing scene was actually two people who could boxing, but they were doing it in the old Styly kind of way.
Have a look at some young pictures of him. He looks like Ryan Reynolds.
You sent me that. I forgot about that. Yeah, he really does look like Ryan Reynolds. You're right.
Oh, Pat Roach is from Birmingham as well, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a fun fact.
Give it up to Pat Roach.
But great use of music as well. Like Kubrick just got to use his favourite classical music pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah, the music really, really works in this film. But I think even more than using his favourite classical music, they used that music in different tones throughout it, with different instruments playing it. So there's times when that music sounds really celebratory, and there's times when that music sounds really kind of despondent and despairing, and to do with like how quick it's played or what it's played on. And I thought that was amazing. Like,
well, I mean, you've got Handel, you've got Vivaldi, you've got Bach, you've got Mozart, Schubert, you've got loads of, you got all the greats in it. It's like a best of like classical music, isn't it? Now classical music 75. I don't know.
Anyway, we've probably bangled on enough.
What are you giving? You're on Letterboxd. What are you going to give it out of 5?
It's 5 stars. I mean, it's 5 stars. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5 stars.
It's 5. I mean, it's a great film. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very confused how it didn't actually work at the time, but it's a great film.
So, what are we talking about next week then, Liam?
We're talking about Elaine May, who one of the kind of iconic female directors, actually, who's got a fascinating career that we will definitely dive into, because it's an absolutely kind of it's a typical Hollywood story. And just before in the 1976, she makes a film called Mickey and Nicky, where she's writer, director, and actress in it. Though I think she's only a voice, but it stars is it Peter Falk and John Cassavetes, which is a cast.
Columbo.
Yeah.
So look forward to lots of us trying to do impressions of Peter Falk.
I don't think I can do a Peter Falk impression, but we'll save that for next week.
There's just one more thing. That's really bad. I'm going to work on it. I'll work on it. Okay, thanks for listening. And don't forget, if you can rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think we're on Stitcher now.
Yeah.
That would really appreciate it. That'd be great. We're also on Twitter. You can find us at AdjustYourTrack. That's YR, not a your. And don't forget,